Ada for going NC with MIL after she convinced my husband to ask for a paternity test because our baby looks too much like me. Sorry, this is gonna be a long one. And I apologize in advance for any spelling mistakes. English isn't my first language. 4 months ago me, 31F, and my husband Mark, 32M, welcomed our first child, our daughter, Sophia. Me and Mark have been together for 10 years, and married 6 years. Getting pregnant wasn't exactly a walk in the park. We were trying for 2 years before it finally happened, and I miscarried 4 times during those years. My parents died when I was 15 and I lived with my grandparents until I was 18 and started at college. My MIL has been like a mother to me and had been an amazing support ever since me and Mark got together. She made dinners and called daily to check up on me after the miscarriages. When Sophia was born, the first thing MIL did when she came to visit was to check up on how I was doing after the birth before focusing on Sophia. I remember thinking I had the best MIL anyone could ask for. She was the first person we told about our pregnancy, at week 18, and she was over the moon about becoming a grandma. The first 4 weeks after we got home from the hospital she moved in with us to help out with Sophia. She was so helpful and always made sure she didn't overstep in any way. My MIL always talked about how Sophia was a mini version of me, and told everyone about how my daughter was a true copy of me. Mark was in love with our little girl and did everything he could to help out. He came home early every day to spend as much time as he could with Sophia and me. Everything seemed perfect. This was what we had wanted for so long. All he could talk about was how perfect our little girl was and how much she looked like me. He even found some old pictures of me and made a photo collage of me and her as babies to put on the wall. After my MIL moved home I think I saw her a couple of times, and would only speak to her if I called her. But to be honest I didn't think much of it as I was busy with being a mother. After the first 2 months Mark started getting more distant and coming home late. He started to spend a lot of time at his mother's house as he said she needed help with some renovations in her house. I appreciated all the help MIL had given us, so I decided to not complain about it, even though I was exhausted from never getting an hour to myself anymore. Right after Sophia turned 3 months Mark came home and said we needed to talk. He sat me down and told me he wanted a paternity test, because his mother thinks our child looked too much like me and nothing like him. My jaw was on the floor and I felt something inside me break. He doubled down with saying he agreed with Sophia looking like me and nothing like him, and that MIL had told him I probably cheated with someone who has some of the same features as me. MIL claims that their family genes are super strong and Sophia should have some of Mark's features if she was his. After he was done talking I couldn't get a word out, I just started crying. It feels like the biggest betrayal that they both accuse me of cheating, and the reason being my daughter looks too much like me. He told me he was sorry but his mother got into his head and he couldn't let it go, and it was constantly on his mind. I just felt defeated by the whole situation and agreed to the paternity test. Although I told him that when the test came back telling Sophia is his daughter, I wanted nothing to do with MIL. And we would have to start couple counseling if there was any hope at all for this relationship to be saved. Fast forward to now, the test came back a week ago, and surprise surprise, she is his daughter. He had this look of relief, before the guilt and panic hit him and he started to apologize to me over and over again. I told him he needed to tell his mother and then tell her we needed a break from her. Surprisingly he was all for it and I could hear him yelling at her for making him doubt me and telling her we didn't want any contact for a while. Mark blocked her number after hanging up so she started to call and text me. It switched from that she was sorry, and I was a horrible for not seeing it from her point of view and taking away her family. I blocked her too, but some of his extended family has messaged both Mark and me calling us cold-hearted for cutting MIL out the way we have. I have started to doubt my decision, thinking I was too harsh after being hurt. Maybe I made a mistake by distancing ourselves from MIL, after all she was just looking out for her only son. So Reddit, Aita Reddit, I'm so overwhelmed by all the support. Thank you to everyone who took the time to answer. I see a lot of you guys are coming for my husband, and trust me I get it. I failed to mention that his last long-term relationship ended because his ex cheated at him. His mother also divorced his father due to infidelity. That doesn't make it okay, but that's the reason I didn't hand him divorce papers the second he asked for a paternity test. I know he has a lot of trust issues, and so does his mother. He has been in therapy before because of his issues and has contacted his psychiatrist and gonna start up therapy again, and we are also going to our first couple counseling later this week. Update, Ada for going NC with MIL after she convinced my husband to ask for a paternity test because our baby looks too much like me. I'm still overwhelmed with all the support and feedback my last post got. I spent a lot of time reading through comments and the messages people sent me. Since I'm still getting messages asking about my situation, I felt like I should make an update for those who still cares. So, buckle up. First of all, a lot of you were saying I should have given my husband divorce papers along with the result of the paternity test. If it wasn't for his past, I would have done it. That being said, he has been my rock during the circus our life has become. Like a lot of you did foresee, my MIL did not react well to us going NC with her. She told his whole family that I made my husband going NC with her because I was jealous of their close bond. She told them I had threatened him with kidnapping and drowning our daughter. His family blew up my phone with calls and nasty messages. It got so bad that I had to change my number and deactivate my FB account. 5 weeks ago, Child Protective Services came to our house after getting an anonymous tips about me physically abusing Sophia. We got cleared quick, but I was so overwhelmed and drained after all of this. Me and my husband agreed that I would take Sophia with me and visit my friend for a week. He stayed at home and did everything in his power trying to inform his relatives of the real story. Several of his family members were mortified and flabbergasted about the whole situation. Most of them did try to apologize. I wish I could say that that was the end of it, but this was only the start. The day after I left to visit my friend, my MIL came to our house. She was banging at the door screaming for us to let her in, and that I couldn't keep her grandchild and her son away from her. My husband was at work, so we both saw the whole thing through our security camera. She stayed outside our house for about an hour and only left because our neighbor threatened to call the cops. My husband called the cops later that day trying to report his mother, but was told she hadn't really done anything wrong, and since she wasn't posing a threat, they couldn't do anything. That was until 2 days later. My husband woke up to noises from Sophia's room, and then a scream and the sound of a door being slammed open. From what he told me, he jumped out of bed running to the bedroom door to lock it, while he called the cops. Seconds after he locked the door, his mother started to pull the door, hitting and kicking it while screaming that we couldn't keep her away from her grandchild. She screamed that no matter what she was gonna get Sophia. The cops arrived while she was still kicking and screaming, and she was arrested for breaking in and threatening our family. She had used her spare key to lock herself in. My husband and the police thinks that she tried to kidnap Sophia. Saying I was scared out of my mind is an understatement. I had a full-blown panic attack when my husband called me about it. We hadn't told anyone where I was, so my husband asked me to stay put at my friend's house and not come home. He would try to figure out what to do. Later that week we agreed that we should move, go NC with his family and keep our address hidden. My husband talked with his boss and he explained the situation and was offered to move city and got a couple of weeks of so we could have some time to find somewhere to live and get everything in order. At the moment our old house is out for sale, we have moved to another city, and we are trying to make this new house our home and putting our life back together piece by piece. Right now my life feels like a really bad movie and I still can't understand how my life got turned upside down so fast, and why my MIL snapped. We are both seeing a therapist. My panic attacks are still pretty bad, and probably will be for a while. We are mourning the life we had. We are both trying to heal and do everything we can to make life as normal as possible for our daughter's sake. Stories number 2. My, F26, husband, M35, of 10 years is amazing on paper, but I'm coming to terms with the fact I was taken advantage of. We have 2 kids together, F9 and M6. We've been together for 10 years but have been married for 7. I'm originally from a small town and ran away from home at the age of 15. I grew up in a really bad environment. My parents were drug addicts that were in and out of jail, and I was basically left to fend for myself since birth. I got to a bigger city, spent 1 year in and out of PPLS homes, and then I met my husband shortly before I turned 16. When I met him, we barely talked for the first few months, but his girlfriend at the time offered me to be their roommate. They eventually broke up, but he didn't make me move out, and let me stay there for free when he realized I was dirt poor. I had a fucked up view of people being nice to me, and because he was so nice and he was a man, my teenage brain thought that it meant he wanted sex. So yes, it was me that came onto him, and I used this to excuse him engaging with me because I made the first move. But I was 16. He was 24. I ended up getting pregnant quickly with my daughter, and then we had our son a few years after. As our kids grow older, I'm trying to shield them from so many of my wrongs, and to do that effectively, I started going to therapy, in secret. It was only this past year that I realized my husband took advantage of me, and that he was the adult. He's an amazing father. He's a great husband and provider. But I've had 2 breakdowns in the past 3 months because I'm so angry at him at the same time. I love my kids, but I shouldn't have been thrown in that situation at such a young age. I don't know what to do. Please, advice on where to go from here. Stories number 3. Ex-colleague stiffed me. So I dangled a carrot to get my payment. Not in the US. This was way back in 2010 when Facebook was the de facto social media. I am a content writer and was in between jobs. An ex-colleague reached out to me and said he was making a corporate film and needed a script writer. I jumped at the offer, although I regret that we did only an oral agreement on the payment amount. Submitted the first draft. He pointed 1,000 reasons why he didn't like it, so did a second, then third draft. He kept rejecting, even though magically the text had already been translated into our native language and was being used in production. So, I put my foot down and said, nope, first pay me full amount for any more revisions. He stopped communicating after that and I realized I had been taken for a ride. His film was complete. I sent him a long text bashing him for breaking my trust. So, out of guilt he paid me 30%, saying that's what my work was worth. A few months later, I got a job at a big corporation that used to hire production houses to make documentaries about its philanthropic work. I had absolutely nothing to do with that department, but I decided to use it as a carrot. I put up a Facebook post about it. I had around 50 friends IRC, and manually hid the post from 49 so it was visible only to him lol. He took the bait and messaged me asking how to apply. Then I gave him a piece of my mind and said he had no integrity and I would not work with him. He promptly transferred the remaining amount. So, I played along. The department in fact did hire companies annually, but it would always happen in the month of April, and we were in December at that time. So, I fished out the form and sent to him to fill it. I told him the process is long and tedious and he wouldn't hear back before April. I never submitted his form when he called me back in April. I said, sorry, we had several applications and you were not selected. Stories number 4. Aita My wife became emotionally abusive since giving birth. She topped it off by cheating. Now she is begging me to reconsider. I, 28M, have been married to my wife, 27F, for 2 years together for 14 months ago we had our first baby. She hasn't gone back to work and I have been the sole breadwinner, her choice, and since she gave birth my wife became a nightmare to deal with. She became irritable, angry at me for the smallest reasons, complains about everything is somehow my fault, all she does is hold the baby all day, even if he didn't need to be held, and scroll through her phone, everything else is my responsibility. We haven't had sex for over a year and a half and whenever I try to address it she lashes out at me because even though I'm the only who works and I do all the housework yet I'm insensitive and don't care about her. I haven't brought up sex until 3 months postpartum, I was basically her emotional punching bag. I tried to get her to therapy, I tried to address her behavior but all I get is more verbal abuse. I hated our marriage, I wanted to end it but I was scared of the idea of co-parenting, I was scared of the social backlash of ending a marriage with a child involved, and also a small part of me was hoping that somehow things will get better. Well, last month she made it a lot easier to end it. She told me she was going to a bar with her friends. She came back home at 4 a.m. drunk. As soon as she slept I snooped through her phone and found texts between her and a random guy implying that she went to a hotel room with him. I was almost relieved when I saw them. I can finally walk away from this miserable marriage without any guilt or regret. The first thing I did was take a DNA test for the baby. He is mine. As soon as the results came back I informed my wife that I'm aware of her infidelity and our marriage is over. She broke down crying, she begged for my forgiveness, she tried to use every excuse in the book, postpartum depression, past trauma, alcohol. She promised to make it up to me, she said she would do whatever I want, said that she doesn't want our family to break, but I wasn't having any of it. I have already hated this marriage and the infidelity was just the nail in the coffin. We still live together and she has been begging me to reconsider, promising me everything under the sun, but I have no intention to reconsider and I told her she is not allowed to speak to me anymore. Stories number 5. I think my husband is delusional, should I leave him? I'm 34, my husband is 38, we have 3 kids together and an accidental 4th on the way. I'll try to keep this setup as short as I can by just saying, my concerns and feelings have not mattered to him for about 3 years now. We moved 900 miles from home and sold a nice house and gave up a good income against my wishes, but I agreed to do it so he could go to ministry school. We rented a house we couldn't afford so he could be close to the school. He has refused to get a job even as we are completely broke and can't even afford food. He had a part-time job for a minute, but quit to start an online business that has ultimately failed. I can get a job and have several applications out, but I'm extremely limited in what I can do because of a physical disability plus having all the kids. Only one is old enough for school and it's not even a full day. The starting rate for daycare in my area isn't even what I'd be able to make. I was able to get us on food stamps, finally. And my mom loaned us the money to pay rent and bills this month. We have a tax return coming, but the money will be gone again after that. My husband graduates this May. My baby is due in July. There's a third-year optional internship that he says he's going for. It's not paid, and they want $800. I imploded when he told me. I hoped and prayed he wouldn't get accepted, and then he did. But the real blow was when he said it started the same week the baby is due. I've watched this man blow his family off for 3 years now, when I was sick, when one of the kids had an event, when I was emotionally not okay, and now he wants to leave me with 4 kids so he can go do something he doesn't have to do. I have no reason to believe he's going to be around to help with this baby. I don't care if he gave this up if he could revise the business, but I know there's no money coming in, I have no husband, the kids have no dad, we have no provider. The ministry school is designed for single, fresh out of school kids. It is not designed for working adults with families. But even the amount they require isn't enough. He signed up for all this optional stuff, and that's the stuff he leaves us for. I found him crying today, and I couldn't even deal with it because I don't care if he's crying because we're sinking, because he hasn't eaten in 5 days, by choice, he's fasting, or if they're happy tears because the man has lost it. He believed for months that a check would show up in the mail one day, or God would meet the financial need some crazy way, and anyone who tries to talk sense into him, they just don't understand. At this point, my options are to either stay with him and drown in it all, or move in with some of his family back home until he gets through internship or comes to his senses. But if I do that, I believe it will ultimately lead to a divorce. Help me, Reddit, what should I do? Edit, wow. I woke up to so much feedback, I don't even know how I can respond to it all. Thank you guys so much, everyone who offered kind words and support. I will be talking to my husband today and giving him an ultimatum, that he either gives up the internship and finds a job, or we're out. If that happens, we'll go stay with relatives back home until I can get a paycheck and an apartment. At any rate, I will most definitely be back with an update. Thank you again. Another edit, this is just extra information, it's not necessary, but if you're interested in the finer details, here they are. To those saying, stop having kids you can't afford, we could afford kids when we were having them. I left out that my oldest is actually 16 and in school. I just didn't bother clarifying because my post was already so long and I didn't think it mattered. Also, I was on birth control due to my disability. It was very detrimental for me to have more kids because my last pregnancy caused my disability in the first place, so I couldn't have been more careful than I already was. Anyway, we were doing fine financially because when we moved, we sold our house for double what we paid for it. We would have been fine the entire time we were here for his school, except last summer he ended up in the hospital with a major arterial bleed caused by his hemophilia. He spent 2 weeks there and almost died 3 times. When he got out, he was told not to lift more than 5 pounds for 3 months. That's what ultimately drained the last of our resources and caused the business to fail, and it was completely out of anyone's control. So we didn't land here because of poor decisions alone. I also want to add, there's a reason I say, delusional. There's not a selfish bone in him, truly. I know, but you gotta hear me. The man loves his family. He really does. And we wants what is best for us. He wants this business to work so he can give us more than a 9-to-5 job can give us, and he doesn't want to miss God, so he's signed up for everything he can at the school. He believes putting God first equals putting his family first. This is delusion, or he's been sold a lie either from the school, or other Christians might say, from the enemy, but he's got it wrong regardless. Up until this point in time, he had always worked, always provided, always had a job, and when we weren't rich, we still never went without. This is so out of character for him that I don't know what to make of it. Anyway, thank you guys again. I'm definitely going to make a move, we aren't going to sit here and drown. Stories number 6. Aita for yelling at my friends and leaving dinner after they all made fun of me and gave me a gay intervention. I, 21F, went out to dinner with 5 friends, 1 guy, 4 girls. For context, I look very masculine, short hair, deep voice, no makeup, masculine style, etc. Sometimes I get mistaken for a man. Usually if it's by someone I'm never gonna see again, i.e. cashier waiter, I don't really care to correct them. My friends and I were having dinner at a nice fancy place and the waiter came to our table and he mistook me for a man. One of my friends responds, "Oh, she's not a man, she's just a lesbian." Everyone laughs and the waiter apologized. After he left, I asked my friend, "Why did you say that?" I have never said or indicated in any way that I'm a lesbian, because I'm not. I've never had a boyfriend, but that's because I'm not interested in a romantic relationship, but we have talked about male celebrities we find attractive. I thought it was clear I was straight. My friend rolled her eyes at my question and said, "Oh come on, we all know you're a lesbian." I was shocked. More friends jumped in and said, "Yeah, you don't have to lie to us." I wasn't lying. They started making jokes about me, dressing like a lesbian, hiding my sexuality, being in a glass closet, everyone knows, it's 2025 no one cares, etc. It all seemed like it wasn't a joke and they actually believed it. One of my friends Eva even joked, "You were obviously in love with Ines." I showed genuine shock at this remark and she reassured me, "It's okay, we all don't mind if you're gay." Ines was an on-off childhood friend of mine and our friendship ended badly a few months ago. I was very upset by it and confided in my friends. I never thought they would use it against me. I told them firmly that I'm not a lesbian, this isn't funny and I was not in love with Ines. Once they saw I was being serious about this, their tone and attitude became less jokey. They started lecturing me on self-acceptance, being in denial, internalized homophobia, I'm not homophobic, heteronormativity, compulsory heterosexuality, etc. It was like some sort of gay intervention. I found it absolutely ridiculous. I yelled at them for being bad friends because I couldn't even dress how I want or talk to them about my troubles and I left the restaurant. It's the morning after and I have serious regret, I don't know what to say to them and what to do. Stories number 7. My F26 sister, F23, keeps posting personal details of our relationship on her public blog/Twitter. She doesn't seem to understand why I don't like this, and I am at my wit's end. Whenever I do something that upsets my sister, her first reaction is to post it on her personal albeit public blog and her Twitter. She doesn't come and talk to me about the issue, or how we can work through it, and instead publicly posts about the issue, often using negative language and insulting me. This is an ongoing issue that has been occurring for many years. I have asked her numerous times to please stop posting about me on her blog/Twitter, and that if she has an issue with something I am doing with her, to please come talk to me first, but her reaction is always the same. She claims that nobody cares, that she vents about her family online, and that it's her personal blog Twitter, and because of that she can do whatever she wants on it. I've tried explaining to her that this is disrespectful to me, and that while yes, it is her personal blog Twitter, she is posting about me in a public sphere on the internet, and therefore it is no longer personal. It is upsetting to me because I feel like I can no longer have a relationship with her, because I live in the constant fear that if I do so little as breathe wrong, my actions will be blogged/tweeted about without so little as her coming to me first to discuss the issue. In the past, she used to tweet/blog about me and my ex-boyfriend, and how she hated him, and would tweet about us having sex. Me and my sister used to live together. I don't live with her anymore, thankfully, but when I go to visit my mother, where she lives, there's always the chance that I'll do something and she'll react by blogging/tweeting about it. More recently, she posted about how I ruined her day and was insensitive for posting a photo of our father on the anniversary of his death and sharing a few positive memories I had of him on FB. She claimed I didn't think of anyone but myself when posting that photo. I felt bad that this upset her, but he was my dad too, and I wanted to hear some positive memories about my father from his friends. When I tried to talk to her about the issue, she stopped responding to me and proceeded to tweet/blog about how she doesn't have time for my whiny bullshit and that I needed to stop being so sensitive. I am at a loss of what to do here. Is there any way I can get her to stop posting about me online? Or am I overreacting? TLDR, my sister keeps posting personal details of our relationship on her public blog/Twitter whenever I do something that upsets her and refuses to discuss the issues she has with me beforehand. What can I do in this situation? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. She claims that nobody cares, that she vents about her family online. Say, I care. And that it's her personal blog/Twitter, and because of that she can do whatever she wants on it. Say, yes, you can. And when you choose to do so, you are irreparably damaging our relationship. When I tried to talk to her about the issue, she stopped responding to me and proceeded to tweet/blog about how she doesn't have time for my whiny bullshit and that I needed to stop being so sensitive. OMG, just cut her out already. Your sister is a hateful asshole who despises you. Why are you putting up with this abuse and public shaming from her? Reply. I've recently blocked her on all public media and have tried to keep any conversations we have on a face-to-face basis. In the past, she has screenshot our conversations and posted them to her Twitter, with my phone number in them no less. However, any conversations that I've had with her face-to-face I end up being stonewalled. She shuts down and refuses to discuss anything. Commenter 2. I post about family members/friends on my Twitter, but it's a padlocked account and I trust everyone who I allow to follow it. It's basically griping to friends indirectly. If she needs an outlet, it needs to be a private one like this. It being public is massively unfair. Reply. Her account is public and she has 70+ followers. Not that that is a lot by any means, but it still bothers me. I doubt she knows every single person that follows her personally, and if anyone was to look up her account, the tweets are there for the whole world to see. Update. After reading through everyone's responses and taking time for myself to see how I really felt about the whole situation, I did as I said I was going to do, and blocked my sister on all forms of social media. I also cut her out of my life, albeit temporarily. For about 8 months, I didn't speak to her, nor make any attempts at communicating with her. That summer, so about 2 months after I had stopped contact with her, my sister moved away for school. My mother eventually got wind of the situation from my brother, who was 24 at the time and has never been particularly close with our younger sister, and asked me why I wasn't talking to my sister. Initially she was judgmental, but after explaining to her my sister's repeated behavior of posting personal details about me online, including my phone number and details about my sex life, my mother was furious and agreed that I had every right to cut her out of my life. At one point, my mother, during a phone conversation with my sister, called her out, calling my sister childish, petty, and vindictive, and said that if she ever found out that she was posting any intimate details about any family members online like that again, she wouldn't hesitate to find a lawyer. She also threatened to kick my sister out of the house if she didn't stop her nonsense. While she was away at school, she did live at my mom's house during summer breaks/holidays. I'm not sure if there was any actual legal repercussions my mom could have actually made against her, but it was enough to make my sister set her blog/Twitter to private after my mom browbeat her into submission for being so shitty. Due to this, my sister and my mom had a huge falling out as well, with my sister repeating the same old adage of how it was her personal blog/Twitter so she could do whatever she wanted with it/on it. Christmas rolled around and me and sister still weren't talking, and while my mom had patched things up with her to a degree, it was an awkward holiday. Me and my brother both live independently. When we went over to visit for holiday stuff, we're civil and polite towards our sister, but we never failed to notice her on her phone 24/7. We could only speculate what she was doing, but I was less bothered now that she had set her blogs to private. Regardless, during a dinner at one point, she was on her phone and my mom asked her to put her phone down so we could have family time. She responded along the lines of, "Yeah, 1 minute," and my brother made a jab about how she was probably too busy posting bullshit lies about us on the internet. I should mention that while my sister doesn't seem to care what I think/ask of her, she has always seemed to respond and care about what my brother thinks. She tried to fight him on his comment for a minute, but he shut her down, calling her a fucking child who just wants internet points, and straight up said that if she was a decent fucking human being, she would talk to us about her problems instead of cowering behind a screen. She shut up after that and retreated to her room after dinner was done. After Christmas, I continued to have zero contact with her. I would hear about how she was doing in school via our mom from time to time, but still had her blocked on all social media. She came home for the summer to work, and that summer our grandma, my deceased father's mother, died. My sister ended up having a complete breakdown due to the culminating and unworked through grief surrounding our father, who had died 2 years previous, and now our grandma. She started going to therapy and actually taking her medication. Eventually, she reached out and apologized to me about her behavior the past few years. We had a sit down that fall, over some beers, and talked about everything that had happened and her behavior. I told her while I accepted her apology, it would take some time for me to work through how behavior had affected me and our relationship. I unblocked her on FB so we could make a group chat with our brother as a buffer. We now occasionally talk, but we still aren't as close as we used to be when we were younger. I actually went to lunch with her the last time she was in town and it felt okay. So that's it, here we are. TLDR, blocked my sister on all forms of social media and cut contact, only participating in it during holiday events, funerals. Brother and mother supported my decision and made it clear to her they didn't stand for her behavior. Sister ended up going to therapy and actually taking her medication and later apologized. We occasionally talk now, but we aren't close anymore. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Ugh, I have a sister who would take pictures of me at events, like meeting an Instagram famous dog, off my personal Facebook page and would tweet them to celebrities that she regularly tweets at. It annoyed me so much. For what it's worth, I don't post on Facebook anymore nor talk to that sister anymore, due to other drama, but that shouldn't stop you from posting on Facebook. Anyways, my sister also has a blog for books she writes, that sadly nobody reads except her circle of book friends, and she talks a lot about her personal life and her relationships with her sisters. It drives me crazy, and I hate when you Google search my name, you can find her blog where I'm talked about. Reply, right? It's incredibly intrusive. Beyond that, my career requires me to have a very limited online presence due to professionalism, and it was horrifying to think that potential employers could Google my name and find it plastered on her Twitter in relationship to her petty complaints about me. Stories number 8. Whipped it to divorce my wife after she said she wanted to send our son to a conversion camp. So, this is a pretty heavy situation, and I'm really confused and disgusted NGL cause I never thought my wife was like this. My wife, 44F, and I, 45M, have been married for 14 years. We have 2 kids, a 16-year-old son, let's call him Noah, and a 12-year-old daughter. We've had our fair share of disagreements over the years OFC, but things have generally been smooth between us. Now for the context. Noah came out as gay about a year ago. It was a surprise, and as hard as it was to accept, I love my kids more than anything and just want their happiness. My wife visibly didn't take it well though. She was upset and seemed to go through a grieving period where she didn't really talk about it. I tried to support Noah in every way I could, telling him that I loved him no matter what, etc. My wife, though, I could tell she wasn't on the same page. She would say things like, "This is just a phase," or "He needs help," but I brushed it off as her needing time. Fast forward to last week, and we were having a conversation about Noah's future. Out of nowhere, my wife casually mentions that she's been looking into conversion therapy camps and thinks it might be the right solution. She said that Noah isn't truly gay, that he just hasn't been shown the right path, and that this could fix him. My blood ran cold. I was in shock. I immediately told her I didn't agree and that this was not something I could support. She got upset and said I was enabling Noah's confusion, and that if I really cared about him, I would help him get better. WTF is wrong with her? She was persistent, and no matter how much I tried to explain that conversion therapy is harmful, like I know those kids get abused, are *ped, and often end up either traumatized or killing themselves, and that I would never send our son to something like that, she wouldn't back down. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't even think I love her anymore. The fact she could be so heartless disgusts me. I know being gay is not easy and people like her just make it even harder. I'm considering staying, only for our daughter's sake, but would it be okay if it means hurting my son? It feels like a betrayal to Noah. I just don't think I can keep living with someone who thinks this is okay. Update. So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone here for all the help and advice I've gotten under my post and in DMs. Sorry if I couldn't answer to everyone, there was just too many fucking people, lol. So I posted something about my wife wanting to send my son to a conversion camp 2 days ago. First of all, some people told me to show her videos and documentaries about what happens there, but this argument has been ongoing for more than a week now. I've showed her things and she won't budge. Really bad update if I can be honest, so let's get into it. All of you told me to try to get him out ASAP, all were definitely right, so yesterday I took the day off and went to see an attorney just to get some info about divorce, etc. But after what happened, I'm 100% sure I want a divorce ASAP. Yesterday I went to pick Noah at his school and as many of you suggested, we had a long discussion. I basically told him his mom and I may be getting a divorce because she wants to send him to a conversion camp, but I can't accept that. I've talked with her many times and I told him I'll probably go through with it. He looked really hurt, my heart broke all over again, but was very understanding and thanked me for standing up for him. I pulled him into a tight hug and told him I'll always love him no matter what and that nothing's his fault. At that moment he started crying because he was so glad at least I was on his side. And I'm very pissed, so sorry if I don't make sense, but apparently his mom had been pressuring him for months. She planned dates with girls to try and fix him and he had to lie by saying he was going at a friend's instead. She was saying he needs help and as much as she loves him he needs to get his condition cured, etc. I feel so bad because I've been so oblivious to all that and I've failed to protect him for all that time. How do you make your 16-year-old son go through that? So when we got home yesterday, I can't lie, I was furious and confronted her right there and then. At first she was trying to explain she was doing it for him, but her speech quickly turned to slurs and it was clear she was just ashamed of having a gay son. In the end I told her I went to see an attorney and that learning all that just confirmed that I want a divorce. She got really angry, calling me a delusional disgrace. We argued a lot and at some point Noah tried to separate us, but my wife punched him multiple times. She was saying disgusting things like he is a dirty fag *T and that it's all his fault we're getting divorced because his filth corrupted me. My daughter, who was prob in her room, came to see what all that commotion was about and was rightfully horrified and quickly called 911 when I told her to. Long story short, the cops got there and took her away. She was very reluctant to go because she was not in the wrong and they needed to let her go. I explained everything to my daughter and she doesn't want anything to do with her mom anymore. I'm in the hospital because my STB ex-wife broke my rib while I was restraining her. I should have probably went as soon as the cops took her, but IDC, my son was crying. With a black eye and split lip, they are checking for any concussion, and obviously the only thing I cared about was to comfort him because I can't even imagine what it can feel like being beaten by your mom for being gay. I'm planning to file for full custody OFC and my kids don't want to see her ever again anyway. Given all the charges she's facing, I hope she won't stand a chance against me. I just sent a mail to my attorney and I hope the procedures will be fast. I've also thought of getting CPS involved, but I'm not sure they will RLY help. Like, I cannot understand how you can grow so resentful of your own kid because of something they can't control. Even I had pretty strong opinions about it, but as a father it is my role to unconditionally love my kids, and so I learned about the topic and changed my way of seeing the world for him. It took some time grasping it, but I never doubted one sec the love I have for my child. I thought it was the same for my wife, visibly not. Update 2. So, a little over 2 weeks ago, I posted about my STB ex-wife putting both my son and me in the hospital because he is gay. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for the support and advice we've received. The kind words were overwhelming. To all the trolls saying this is fake, God knows I wish it was. Maybe I didn't make much sense because I was extremely shaken, so I apologize if that's the case. Now, for the update. It's been difficult ever since, but don't worry, this is not a bad update. First of all, I was able to get an emergency custody order. I'm very, very relieved because many of you warned me about how people can have their kids forcefully taken by those conversion camps, and I'm relieved that she can't do that anymore. I'm still overly anxious and only leave my son alone when he's at school. I've instructed all the teachers to make sure no one but me approaches him. Thank God my boss has been understanding on the matter. I've been granted the exclusive use of our house as well, so I've changed the locks and installed security cameras. Many friends and family members, from my side of course, have been visiting often, to give us both emotional support and safety. Many of you also advised me to document every injury that my son and I sustained. Fortunately my son didn't suffer a concussion, so I took plenty of pictures and gave them to my lawyer, and she has also taken my son's and my daughter's testimony. Given all the charges my wife is facing, child abuse, both physically and emotionally, neglect, endangerment, assault and battery, hate crime and domestic violence. Yeah, it doesn't look very good for her. Our lawyer is confident that I will 100% be granted full custody. She also said that it's likely STB's attorney will recommend that she gives up her parental rights, given the overwhelming evidence against her. Also T's very likely that my son and I, possibly even my daughter if she asks for it, will be granted a restraining order against her. My lawyer has told me CPS involvement will only strengthen my case, as they are thoroughly investigating everything. While we're still waiting to get the court date, I am feeling highly confident and relieved for the first time since all that shit happened. I've gathered tons of overwhelming evidence against the toxin, thanks to that person who came up with that name. I'll keep everyone updated, and thank you again for all the advice and support my kids and I have received. I honestly don't know how I could have gotten through this without all of you. Y'all just saved a family, be proud. Update 3. Hi everyone, it's been a while. If you don't remember me, I'm the dad who posted about his wife wanting to send our son to a conversion camp, which escalated to her attacking us / sending us to the hospital. It's been a while since the last update, and I'm sorry to have kept all of you hanging like this. I was honestly too focused on protecting my son to think about it, lol. So now on to the update. I'll try to make it fast. I'm exhausted, so I apologize if I don't make a lot of sense. First of all, the divorce. The divorce isn't finalized yet, as my legal team focused on securing custody and protective orders first. Now that's settled, the divorce proceedings will be moving forward. About the custody, she gave up all her parental rights to both Noah and my daughter, which means I have full custody of both. Also, Noah and I thankfully got a restraining order against her. However, for some reason, the judge decided my daughter didn't need one since her mother hadn't physically attacked her. My lawyer was fuming. As if her actions weren't self-explanatory. I don't know what that judge was on, but I sure as hell want it. About the sentencing. As I said, the toxin gave up her parental rights and agreed to a plea deal, which is how we saw the judge so fast, which I believe significantly reduced her sentence. She was found guilty of assault and battery, child abuse, emotional distress, a hate crime, and domestic violence. She was eventually sentenced to 1 year and 10 months in jail, but she could be released early for good behavior as well as 100 of community service when she gets out. This is still crazy though, given she literally broke my ribs and beat the shit out of my son. I believe she should be locked up for much longer. We had so much evidence, medical records, testimonies, CPS. At least we'll be away from her for that time. I'm shocked by how fast all this went though. I guess the police doesn't joke about domestic violence against minors. Now on to my son, my daughter, and me too. I've put the 3 of us in therapy. My daughter quit within a few weeks, saying she didn't need it anymore. However, Noah is still attending, both alone and with me. His mother's behavior left deep scars that, of course, can't be seen but are very much present. And I feel like therapy helps him navigate his own identity and self-acceptance better as well. He begged me to keep this 100% anonymous, which I did, as he is not out yet to most of his friends at school. The few friends who know have been very supportive, though, and there is this boy I think my son likes. Overall, we've gotten so much support, and I couldn't have protected them without all of you. Not only from our friends and family, but mainly from all of you, who gave so much advice, so many reassuring words of love and encouragement. Reddit truly is a wonderful place. We've lost people, of course. As I said, I myself was raised to be homophobic, so, some people from my side of the family cut us off. But most of them still supported us. We lost my wife. It was truly heartbreaking to see who she really is, but we don't need that kind of person in our lives. In exchange, we've got all of you, and we wouldn't be here without you. Right now, my kids are playing Mario Kart at our home, and who knows what could have happened instead if I did not seek help here. I can never thank you all enough for saving my son. I believe this will be my last update. Surely I will update if my crazy ex reappears, or when my son gets married, but in the meantime, this will be it. Thanks again, so much. Stories number 9. Aita for slapping my brother after he gave away the money he promised me to his wife. My brother is 27M and I am 20F. I don't want to sound entitled, but I am entitled to the money he promised me. Our parents had funded his business and he promised to give me money for my higher education, and I can't even ask my parents cause they don't have money, but my brother does. A few days ago I went to my brother and told him that I need money for my education and I need him to pay fee and help me a bit with other expenses. He said he can't cause he used all his money to fund his wife's new business and he asked me to wait a while. I told him that I can't wait, it's going to cost me a whole year, and he said he can't help right now. I lost my cool cause my parents gave all their money to my brother and I didn't have a problem with it. We were wishing that he would become successful and help us, and he promised to help me find my education. I told him that he promised me and it's not just his money, it's mine as well, and we all trusted him, but now he is betraying me. And you don't have money? You should have saved up for me. I am your sister, but you compromised my education, betrayed me and our parents. He still said he doesn't have money. He invested all he had in his wife's business. I got so angry I slapped him and said that I don't need his help anymore and consider me dead. He can keep being his wife's slave and do her bidding. He grabbed my hand and tried to stop and talk to me, but I didn't listen to him and I left. I no longer care about my brother, to be honest. FK him. I thought it was his love that he cared so much about his wife, but now I know he's being used. But I am so stressed about my future. I don't know what to do, and deep down I still care for my brother. He used to help me so much and now I am wondering what happened to him. Comments. Commenter 1. It's kinda your parents' fault as well. They shouldn't have given everything to him, should have given him his share and asked him to get a loan. Commenter 2. It's like giving your toddler the keys to the cookie jar and then wondering why they're on a sugar high. Parents really need to start teaching those sharing is caring lessons earlier. Commenter 3. Slap him, then slap your parents, then slap yourself. All of you are TA for not talking things out clearly. Commenter 4. Your content is not clear here. Did you give him a heads up that you will need money at least before a few months, or went to him and wanted it immediately? What was agreed upon? There is no rough figure you mentioned here. How does your parents survive if they gave all the money to him? You sound foolish to say you don't need the money anymore. You could have asked him to co-sign for a loan and give you the money. If he hesitates, then involve your parents. Anger and rage will not take you anywhere. Think of solutions before ruining your life. Update. I know I will get a lot of mean comments on my post, like on my previous, and I am prepared, and I also agree that I shouldn't have slapped my brother, but I was angry cause he almost jeopardized my career and I was angry. I decided to talk to my grandparents because I need money and I was relying on my brother to help me this whole time. My parents shared my share of inheritance with him and we were thinking that he will help us, me during my college, but he backed out. I told my grandparents everything and they sided with me. My grandpa was angry and he said that my brother already got his inheritance from our parents, so he won't get anything from them, and he said his share of inheritance will go to me, to my college fees and other expenses and whatever I would like to do next. TBH, this whole thing has been a blessing in disguise cause the amount of money I will get from my grandpa far surpasses than what I would have gotten from my parents. My grandpa lectured him a lot and told him that he betrayed me and he should have been taking care of me instead of his wife, and told him all his money is going to me. The lecture lasted a long time. But my brother later called me and said I should have trusted him and waited a while instead of complaining to our grandparents. I told him I don't care anymore. I trusted him once, but he broke my trust and he should be helping his sister, not his wife, when you both are already comfortable. I told him that I am sorry for hitting him and if he wants to call police on his 7 years younger sister he can, but now on our sibling bond ends here. I will focus on my life and build my own career way better than his. My brother tried to reconcile, but I didn't believe him and told him to FK off. Comments. Commenter 1. Why did your parents share your part of the inheritance with him? Why was there an assumption he would give this money to you at a later date? Commenter 2. He basically agreed that if they did he would ensure when the time came for op he'd pay for their education. In this time, however, his wife decided she's wanted to start her own business, and although they were comfortable he spent all op's inheritance he had not already used, as well as the money he since saved to replace it on that. He didn't even tell any of them until op was making plans and getting ready to enter uni and approached him. Only then did he tell op that's not going to happen any longer, as he used the money he promised on his wife instead. That's what's caused this whole thing, that he used the money knowing how close it was until Op would be due to go to uni. He knew he was breaking his promise, which meant he swindled his parents into giving him Op's shares just for him to effectively steal it all and break his word. He told Op tough, but the moment his grandparents get involved to make it clear he will get nothing of their larger inheritance, then suddenly Op should have trusted him and waited. Nah, he's a thief, nothing more. Commenter 3. This whole situation is incredibly dumb. Reply. It is dumb cause I was a dumbass for trusting my brother. I have no idea why everyone is fighting me like it's me against everyone on Reddit. Yes, I made a mistake by slapping him and I apologized, and I cannot go back in past and undo my slapping. If my brother didn't promise me to help me with my education, I would have never agreed to let him take my share of money, and I trusted him, and when I need money he says he doesn't have it and he invested in his wife's business. Like, what about me and my people here are telling me to get a job or loan like million others, and even if I do that, but that won't fix my issue. He gets to get all the money and I should just forgive and forget. No, I fought for my money and in return I was blessed with far more than he got. I have no idea why everyone is ignoring the fact that my brother almost fucked me over and my trust in him, but I guess I will just stop responding here and live my life cause it was a mistake to post to begin with. Stories number 10. Aita for telling my stepmother-in-law I'm glad she can't have children. When my wife was a teenager, her stepmother had health issues that eventually led to a hysterectomy. She and my father-in-law had been trying to conceive prior to that, and she's very open about how painful it was to become unable to have kids. She's been in therapy for years, but this is still a sore subject, so we don't bring it up. During the pandemic, Smil became a vegetarian. While I obviously have no problem with that, no one else in the family is, and she tends to get very preachy about it. There is one specific video of cattle being slaughtered and processed that she has sent multiple family members. Because of that peachiness, my wife and I try to avoid having meals with her. I've also been told that she and Phil often eat in separate rooms. Anyway, my wife and I attended a wedding about 2 weeks ago. Our regular babysitter cancelled on us at the last minute, so Phil and Smil volunteered to watch our kids, 8M and 5F. They babysat our children once a few months ago and things went fine, so my wife and I agreed. The kids were asleep when we returned home. The next day, my daughter was very upset. She barely spoke all morning. When we sat down for lunch, she started crying and refused to eat. We tried to talk to her, but she refused to tell us what was wrong. Eventually, my son told us what happened. We had promised the kids they could have burgers for dinner. My Phil was aware of that, but he apparently fell asleep less than an hour after we left. When it was time for dinner, the kids went to ask Smil to make the burgers, and she refused. My son offered to wake Phil up, but she said no to that too. She said she would make the kids something else for dinner. When my children started begging for the burgers, Smil showed them the cattle video. She also apparently told them my wife was secretly against them eating meat, which is why they hesitated to tell us what she'd done. My wife and I had a talk with our kids and managed to get them to feel better. After they went to bed, we called Smil. She confirmed she'd shown them the video. To say we're both outraged would be putting it lightly. My wife and I immediately told her we were cutting her off from our kids, and will probably do the same with Phil for falling asleep while he was supposed to be babysitting. Smil started trying to defend herself. She told us she was only trying to help, and that we should be making more efforts to get our kids to eat healthy. It only made me angrier. I told her she has no idea how glad I am that she can't have children, because I'd pity the child that would have her as a mother. After that, she hung up on us. Phil has been calling and texting us. He is apologetic for falling asleep, but insists that cutting him and his wife off is an overreaction. He's also angry that I mocked Smil's infertility. Apparently, she is distraught at what I said, and Phil is demanding I apologize to her. Honestly, I don't think I'm the asshole here, but I am wondering whether I went too far. My wife agrees it was a low blow that Smil deserved to hear, but a low blow nonetheless. Aita Edit. Okay, to clarify some things I haven't already said in the comments. Phil and Smil babysat at our place, not theirs. I can't believe I have to say this, but I have no problem with vegetarianism. I actually tried to become a vegetarian a few years ago, but couldn't for medical reasons. In Smil's case, what I have a problem with is her preachiness. In general, my wife and I have always had a meh relationship with Smil, but we never disliked her or treated her poorly. She has made a few comments about introducing vegetarianism to our kids in the past, but never anything this extreme. I'll admit I don't know much about Smil's medical history. I only know about the hysterectomy because she didn't react well to either of my wife's pregnancies and they had to tell me what was going on. We promised the kids the burgers back when they were going to be watched by their usual babysitter. FIL and SMIL replaced her at the very last minute, and the kids ate chicken the last time they babysat. We didn't plan it, FIL found it in the fridge and cooked it, so we maintained the burgers. I saw the video a few years ago. It's a little under 5 minutes long and very graphic. Not the worst of those videos, but definitely not suitable for children. From my son's description, I think they watched most of it. I'm more angry about SMIL lying to my children about their mother than the fact she showed them the video, but the whole situation infuriates me. My wife is angry that her father fell asleep for personal reasons, but we're not certain about cutting him off. We won't budge on SMIL. Having read most of your comments, I think I'll apologize for what I said about her fertility, but I will maintain everything else. I don't want her near my children ever again. I'll update when I can. Relevant comments. That's fucked up to do that to little kids. I don't even want to see that, and I'm an adult. No one wants to watch animals being slaughtered. We know it happens, but to constantly watch it and share it seems a little unhinged. It's up to her what she wants to do, she doesn't have to force everyone else into compliance. Yeah, I completely get my SMIL not wanting to make the burgers, and I'd never ask her to. But the solution would have been to wake up my FIL, who shouldn't be sleeping in the first place. I don't understand what made her think showing them the video was a good idea. It took me and my wife hours to convince our daughter to eat. Knowing where food comes from is what all people should know. The world is not antiseptic. My class was taken to a meat packing plant when I was in the 3rd grade. Downvoted. My kids already knew where food comes from. We taught them that without showing them a video of animals being killed. Plus, if your parents were fine with you seeing that, that's fine. I was not okay with my 5 years old watching cattle being butchered. Update. Hey everyone. Thank you for your input on my first post. Though my wife and I have no intention to let her back in our children's lives, I decided to apologize to SMIL for what I said. My wife and I talked a lot about the subject. She said that, based on her history with her stepmother, it really was a good thing she didn't have children. But before we had ours, my wife had always wanted to be a mother and was terrified about the possibility of not being able to. That fear got worse around the time SMIL had the hysterectomy. My wife told me her stepmother was agonized when it happened, and even though she agreed with me, she felt it might be best to apologize. Another thing that led me to make that decision was my mother. Before my brother and I were born, my parents had a stillborn daughter. They didn't talk about her much, so I didn't even think of it at the time, but my brother brought it up a few days ago. I couldn't stop thinking about her. As a parent, I can't even begin to imagine how my mother felt. I would never mention anything related to that out of anger, no matter how wrong my mother was. In the end, my wife and I agreed that, while I should apologize, we absolutely can't budge on cutting her stepmother off. We can't forgive what she did. It took us hours to convince our daughter to eat anything, not just meat. Even after that, she refused to eat meat for a few days because she didn't want to be evil. Our son wasn't as shaken, but he still had trouble sleeping for a few nights. My wife and I sat them down and had a long conversation about it. We answered every question they had as well as we could. Thankfully, we were able to reassure both our kids that eating meat wouldn't make them bad people. They are still a little distraught, but they are doing much better and eating normally again. Our main concern will always be their health and happiness. SMIL compromised both, so we had no doubts about cutting her from our lives. We called FIL and SMIL this weekend. I apologized for what I said to SMIL, but told her we were still cutting her off as expected. She didn't take it well. She started going off about how she was trying to help our children, and we were terrible parents for depriving them of that care. I'm pretty sure she was crying. She said that it was awful that such cruel, ungrateful people could raise kids and not her, and we shouldn't allow our children to take part in something that caused so much unnecessary suffering. After about a minute of that, FIL managed to get SMIL to stop and hang up the phone. My wife later spoke with her father separately. FIL apologized again for falling asleep. He said he understood why we were upset, but promised he would never do anything like that again. We decided to forgive him, but we won't leave the kids in his care again, and he will only be allowed to see them without his wife. We have options besides our usual babysitter. FIL agreed. He invited us for a family dinner at a steakhouse my wife loved as a kid. He hasn't been there since SMIL became a vegetarian. We're going this Friday. I definitely have my regrets, but I'm satisfied with how things turned out. More than anything, I'm glad my children are alright. Watching my daughter refuse to eat was terrifying, and I will never forgive SMIL for scaring her and her brother like that. But they're getting better every day, and I think things are going to be okay. Once again, thank you for all your advice and support. I'll try to reply to more comments this time. Relevant comments. On OOP's children, the more details my kids give me about what happened, the more I wonder whether apologizing was the right move. I still don't regret doing so, but I don't think I'll stop being furious at her anytime soon. Plus, it was difficult at first, but they're doing much better now. I think we've managed to reassure them we'd never think any less of them. It is pretty hilarious that father-in-law is taking them out to a steak dinner to apologize though. Agreed, but I don't think it's out of spite. He loves the place too, and has been wanting to take the kids there for a while. His wife refuses to go there, so he never had the opportunity. We did have a family dinner there once, before Smil became a vegetarian, but my son was too young to remember it and my daughter wasn't born yet. Be careful on Friday. You might want to arrive a few minutes late and send one adult in first to confirm that stepmom isn't present. Or arrive early and sit in the car until you're sure only dad shows up. We'll be careful, but she avoids steakhouses like the plague. I think we'll be fine. Stories number 11. Aita for being high conflict with my ex-husband and his wife over our kids. So to start, my 33F, ex-Harry, 35M, and I have been divorced for 6 years. We dated a bit in high school when I visited a relative in his hometown, which is a major city, for the summers, but I would break up with him when I went back to my city for school, which is about 2.5 hours away. Not the most mature I know, but even my parents were like, you don't need a LDR before you can vote. We kind of kept in touch on Facebook, LOL, at the time, but my sophomore year of college he ended up transferring to my school. We got back together and got married basically right after I graduated and moved to my hometown city. Our kids Matt, 11, and Elise, 8, came pretty quickly and we had a few good years before. Stop me if you heard this one. I just felt as if I was already a single mom of 3 kids and was sick of working, doing all the childcare, and all of the cleaning, cooking, planning. We tried therapy but ultimately decided that it wasn't going to work. For 3+ years it was fantastic. We had a wonderful 50-50 co-parenting relationship. He was such a better father when he had them all to himself, and I had the breaks that I had been begging for. We agreed to never badmouth the other in front of the kids or make them responsible for our feelings or anything like that. We didn't have to spend a fortune on a divorce because we were able to amicably work everything out, which only benefited our kiddos. In later 2022 he let me know he had gotten back together with Amy, 35F. He said her name a bunch like I should know who she was, and I finally asked, and apparently she was the girl he had dated when I was not in town before we reconnected. I was honestly happy for him. I'm not interested in dating TBH, my kids are too young and I work a lot and have a ton of friends and family. Amy lived in his hometown and I know he visited her a lot when he didn't have the kids. We were week on week off, but he always was there for his parenting time. The kids met Amy and said they liked her a lot, so I was happy. My parents were also divorced but found other people while still being amazing parents, so I was really hopeful. But in 2023 he let me know he had proposed and would be moving back to his hometown to be with Amy. I was pretty stunned because he was such a dedicated and present father and asked how he expected that to work. He was insistent that he wanted to keep 50-50 custody but admitted he could only do every other weekend parenting time. Before he moved we didn't have any sort of alimony or child support or anything since we were 50-50ths and split big expenses evenly. He said he would keep splitting big expenses evenly and offered me child support since my expenses for the kids would be going up having them so much more, not that I was complaining about that. Again, we wanted to work this out ourselves mostly. Why spend money on lawyers when we have 2 kids who could use it? I make a bit more than him, not that that really matters, but the first amount her offered, $400 for 2 kids a month, was laughable. I didn't laugh at him or anything but told him that would not be acceptable. He said he was willing to continue paying half of big expenses, which? Duh. Plus he'd be driving a 5-hour round trip since he was the one moving every other weekend. I thought about it a lot and figured that I am fine financially, as much as anyone is these days, and didn't want to bankrupt him for child support. The most important thing to me was that he continued to be a present and amazing father and said I would be okay with $600 a month plus the shared big expenses. I thought he would be happy with this, but he kept grumbling that he thought $400 was more than fair. Ultimately he agreed to $600. Again, I really wanted to make this work for my kids, so please don't tell me I was an idiot for some of these things. I really went out of my way to be helpful. Like I said, I am single and have a ton of family and friends, so I had more free time. If they had things going on I never minded keeping the kids for their weekend, always encouraged the kids to be excited to go there, bought gifts from them for things like Father's, Stepmother's Day, Christmas, birthdays. If I believe in love languages, but if my kids have them, it is absolutely gift giving and it's not like their asses have jobs. And even worked it out for my relative in their city to pick our kids up from their wedding ceremony since they had an adults only reception. These kind gestures were never reciprocated. I tried to brush it off and thought maybe I was just doing too much and tried to take a step back when the kids told me that some of the weekends they stayed with me Harry and Amy had gone on vacations to places like Europe and Disney. I don't follow them on social media obviously so I had no idea. I go on vacations too, but the idea of going on such an expensive vacation and not taking my kids sounds nuts. They're great travelers, we actually went to Japan last summer and had a blast. Maybe I'm an annoying parent but I couldn't believe he'd leave the country or go to freaking Disney and not only not take the kids but not even let me know. I wanted to remain amicable but after I found that out the favors stopped and for the past few months anytime he asked me to keep them for a weekend because they had plans I'd say oh sorry same good luck. Yes even if it was far in advance. I wasn't trying to be petty but it wasn't as if they were asking to switch weekends ever, it was always just skipping them. I know his family is useless, no idea about hers but he should be able to make time for his children 4 days a month. Then a few months ago I found out he'd been asking my relatives in his city for help, sometimes they did if they could but not always. I didn't want to keep bothering them so I ended up saying yes to keeping the kids more, plus I obviously love them, but I started keeping track of every time he asked me to keep them over a 5-month period it was 5 times. And around that time Matt had told me some pretty upsetting things and confided that he was okay staying here more. I was clear that he could tell me anything and that nothing was his fault at all. But he told me when he was at his dad's, both he and his sister needed to be in their rooms at 8 p.m., keep in mind this is weekends. Not in bed but they weren't allowed to be in the living room or anything or have friends over. I asked if his dad and Amy were home during these times and he said yeah, but Amy's dog is aggressive and they keep it in their room during the day so when he and Elise go to their rooms they let the dog out so he's not cooped up all day. I love dogs, we have two, and what the fuck. Elise got a bad flu a few visits ago and apparently she had asked Harry to sleep with her in her room and he refused and said he needed to sleep with Amy. Our kids do not co-sleep but we always let them sleep with us if they were sick and asked. I don't expect Harry and Amy to let her sleep with them or anything, both kids are not ever allowed in their room because of the dog, but why couldn't he have stayed with her even if it was just until she fell asleep? I did not say this to them, but told Matt and Elise that their dad had just gotten over the flu and probably just didn't want to get her sick again which makes no sense I know I shouldn't have lied but they were upset. The worst IMO is that when Matt randomly told his dad he wanted to see him more he yelled at him and told him that he was seeing him a lot already and he should want his dad to be happy and not miserable and alone like his mom. I would like to again reiterate that I am very happy being single and have turned a lot of guys down. I prefer to spend my time with my friends and kids and can date when they're older. I don't like the stats on unrelated men being around kids and don't feel the need to risk it anyways. So between all this and the missed visits I decided that I needed to stand up for myself and my kids more. If Harry could go on European vacations he could afford more child support, and I was done keeping up the appearance of 50-50 custody when he only had the kids about 45 nights in 2024. So I told Harry I was going to file for updated child support and primary custody, and get everything in writing and signed off by a judge. He said he was okay raising child support, he had apparently gotten a few raises since we settled it and said he would be fine with upping it to $750. First of all you got all these raises and didn't even think to raise it yourself despite skipping almost half your agreed visitation. And that low of an amount, I told him it was insulting and we could just let the court figure it out. He reminded me that I made much more than he did and I was like yeah that's why I'm able to take them on vacations when apparently you couldn't scourge up enough money to take your children to Disney World. I know that was immature but I was pissed. He tried fighting more but I told him I didn't intend on fighting with him outside of court and filed. Obviously because I'm writing this, the judge agreed to almost all of my requests. Child support was increased, I have primary custody in decision making, and it can be adjusted more if he continues skipping weekends. TBH this has all helped me with the kids and their increasing expenses and needs tremendously. We only communicate ambit text or email and it's only about the kids. But a mutual friend of ours told me that at a wedding recently Amy and Harry spent a bunch of time complaining about me, calling me high conflict and a parasite. And much worse things when they drank more but I won't repeat them. I got upset. My only goal is for my kids to have a great childhood and a present dad and I feel like I fucked that up. My friends told me that Harry's the one who fucked it up but I'm really doubting myself. So Aita for pushing my ex to do more. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA you are standing up for your kids. At the end of the day that's what you need to do. Sounds like Harry likes being a dad when it suits him but now that he has Amy she is his focus and the kids take a back seat. Reply, I get what you're saying. It's upsetting because I wanted him to be happy as I thought it would, you know, trickle down to the kids. But it hasn't. Commenter 2, Amy and Harry spent a bunch of time complaining about me, calling me high conflict and a parasite. And much worse things when they drank more. They can call you anything they like, but the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Who has full custody? Where do the kids live? Where do the kids want to be? Harry and Amy are showing their ass to the world and everyone can see it for what it is. You better be able to as well, or you will be easily manipulated again. Reply: yeah, they did say to our friends I blindsided him for custody and they asked if that was true and I laughed showing them the receipts. I know they are wrong, but I'm worried I blew up our co-parenting relationship and it will affect my kids. Commenter 3, NTA. Stop worrying about what Harry and Amy think. You've been looking out for your kids as any good parent should, and more importantly you're present for them. Focus on you and your life with your children and leave your ex to mess things up for himself, as he's no longer your responsibility. Reply: it's not that I give a f about their feelings, at all. But if they hate me, apparently there is no way that's good for the kids, and although I cannot see where they are coming from, if they resent me it's only going to affect Harry's relationship with the kids. Commenter 4, NTA at all. My guess is Amy hates you and your kids. BC Amy feels she's always the runner-up with your husband. He dated her when you weren't around. He married her when you divorced. She feels like she's not his first choice and she wants to see you suffer as she feels she did. That's my guess. I have family members like her. Reply: I don't know that this is true. She told our friends that she knows I always felt a certain way about her and says my jealousy is why they couldn't have been friends, but I literally had no clue who she was. I knew he dated other people when we broke up, but that's fine, so did I. Commenter 5, NTA. Good for you looking out for your children. You have done all you can to make this a positive. I would worry if they have children together, it is only going to get worse. Reply: I knew this, but another fucked up thing is that apparently at one point Elise asked Amy if she was going to have a baby and Amy told her that she had her tubes tied, so no. But didn't elaborate, and Elise is only 8. Like Matt would have understood, but we have not had any of those kinds of talks with Elise before this, and she was devastated asking me why Amy had tubes. She's apparently always been child-free, which is totally fine. I have a lot of friends who didn't and still don't have kids. And I did talk to Elise about not asking people about things like that again. Update. Quick edit. Sorry if I can't reply to everyone. And sorry for the dumb formatting. I wrote this in the Notes app initially because writing it in the Reddit app is annoying. Also, I'm pretty emotional now, but I think you've already changed my mind about offering to drop child support. I will be going for full 100% custody, though. Unfortunately, things have degenerated since my last post. To get this out of the way, I am in therapy, usually once every other month or so. It was more often closer to the divorce, and so are my kids. I know Harry was seeing someone when he lived here, no idea if he still does. He was supposed to have the kids next weekend as scheduled. Wouldn't you believe it, but the other day he called. They got last-minute tickets to a concert out of town and asked if they kids could stay here. I let him know that I actually had plans the entire weekend that had been set months ago, so he asked if I could either bring them or if they could stay with one of my family members in my city. I normally would have done just that and pulled out my calendar and marked this off as another missed visitation, but I was just sick of it. I told him he needed to figure it out, and not to call my relatives in his city. They were not his personal free babysitters, and he was their father, so he needed to start acting like it. He got upset and said he was drowning. I almost laughed but didn't, asking him what he meant, and he said he was struggling financially due to the child support and felt like I was trying to punish him for moving. He said I was allowed to be upset we weren't together anymore, but needed to put the kids first and work with him. I couldn't believe he was saying those things. He knows why our marriage ended. He knows that I have moved mountains to make our co-parenting relationship work, and I have pages of texts and emails of him thanking me for being so accommodating and sympathetic to his situation. Some were even just a few weeks ago. I hung up. I was at work and did not have the emotional bandwidth to be lied to about this shit. He tried calling me back a few times, but I had meetings and I realized I shouldn't have spoken in anger, so I wanted to calm down. He even had his wife call me a few times, but I let it go to voicemail. She left a few cruel ones, nothing shocking, just saying I'm bitter and jealous that Harry moved on and wanted to punish them. I want to emphasize again, and I would rather cut my legs off than be back together with him. I'm the one who filed for divorce and stuck to my guns. It's like these two live in some kind of delusion where I not only want my ex back, barf, but I have never helped them once. When I got home, I pulled the calendar for the past 2 years, which had every missed visitation, including last-minute requests, all color-coded accordingly. I emailed this to both of them and said that Harry was responsible for coming up with appropriate childcare during his visitation, and that if he was finding that challenging we could look into changing the visitation schedule to something more accommodating to their busy lifestyles. Then I left to take my kids to their sports practices. I did not hear from him. Normally Harry calls our kids every school night evening around 8 p.m., but he didn't that night. I felt guilty, As I've said, the only goal here is for my kids to grow up with a present father. It might have been dumb, but I did call him that evening so he could say goodnight to them, but he sent me to voicemail. I told the kids he had gotten caught up at work, which does happen often enough that they weren't weirded out. At about 3 a.m. he sent me maybe the longest text in recorded history. I have my phone on sleep mode but keep his and my parents' numbers able to alert me for obvious reasons, and I'm a light sleeper so I did wake up. But I was half asleep, saw how long the text was, and decided it was a problem for the morning. I wish I had gotten up because he ended up sending a few more. The texts really just proved that they do not occupy the same reality as me. They were all self-centered and deranged, and even when he brought up the kids it was all about him, his wife, and their lives and feelings, saying, it is my job as a mother to facilitate the kids' relationship with him because he could have easily forced me to move to the city he's in, WTF, but chose not to so I could stay here with my support system. I don't thank Amy enough for opening her life to the kids by keeping her dog in their room when the kids are here and giving them their own bedrooms even though they're empty much of the time. That he and Amy are young newlyweds, they are neither of those things, and deserve to have that honeymoon period with trips and opportunities without me putting up roadblocks. A lot of it was that insane belief that I am somehow jealous and have always been jealous of Amy and needed to get over that for the kids. Apparently my cruelty knows no bounds because I have never driven the kids to him in his new city. The court order is for him to do so since he's the one that moved, this is standard, and, no offense, I'm already furious that my kids have to spend so much time in the car every few weeks and I'm not putting miles on my car just so that he doesn't have to drive more. At one point, because I know the kids hate the long drives, I offered to split costs for flights between our cities, which are like 30 minutes and anywhere from $50 to $75 per ticket, so not cheap but saves time, and he refused, saying the airport in this city is annoying to get to. There is no direct Amtrak between our cities, it would be like 8 hours plus I believe. They might just get full custody and make me be the one to jump through hoops to see my children so that I can know how they feel, simply just get full custody because apparently in their world they deserve every little whim of their own desire. Accused me of financial abuse for upping child support when I wasn't destitute. Apparently unless I'm living under the poverty line my kids don't deserve financial help from their father. I have PTO to burn and just decided to take one today because I'm so overwhelmed and upset about all of this. Yes, I did screenshot all of these for my lawyer. I don't want to be the cause of my kids' father abandoning them, but I have been at and beyond my limit for so long I don't know what to do. They both treat me so horribly and make these assumptions that are just simply not true. I want my kids to have their dad in their lives. I've run myself ragged making it work, taking up the slack when they dropped weekends, doing all of the mental heavy lifting for looking ahead and switching weekends if, for instance, Father's Day falls on mine or her birthday, when I know she doesn't want them around, falls on their weekend and planning ahead of time / contacting them. I'm so done. I want to offer this, fine, you win. No more child support. Keep all your money. You can see the kids the weekends after Christmas and Thanksgiving, those are when they celebrate the holidays anyways, and on Father's Day, but otherwise they're with me. You too can live your child-free life and me and my kids will be just fine without you. I can't keep putting up with this abuse, I'm at my breaking point. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, don't open the door to him not providing child support. You should use all the evidence you have to get more custody and also increase his child support. Fuck your ex for wanting to abandon his kids and for thinking he can actually get full custody when he's constantly bailing on his current scheduled times. He's delusional and thinks threatening you will get you to let him do as he pleases. The reality is his lies won't get him anywhere and he doesn't have the power to follow through on any of them. Reply, I've been devastated all morning/day. I know logically that the only way he could possibly get full custody is if I were to die, and I can't stop crying thinking about my kids being forced to their rooms every night at 8, never going to trips to fun things, and living with a stepmom who can't stand kids. I probably shouldn't have posted because I'm so upset and emotionally but I'm so lost. I don't like talking to people IRL about this other than my therapist because I don't want to poison them against my ex or put my problems on them, but this is the only thing since my divorce I feel so alone about. I feel like I failed my kids by giving them Harry as a father. Commenter 2, you need to increase therapy if you have the means to do so. BC the fact that you typed all of that and said you don't want to be the cause of your shit ex abandoning his kids. He is the one responsible. If he chooses to be a deadbeat that's on him. He chose to move. He chose to be a shit dad. Time for you to get it written in your custody arrangement that he makes arrangement for childcare on his weekends. Do not give up child support that is your children's money not yours. Do not give that up. All of the money he pays is for your children. You are knocked down and not thinking rationally. Do not respond either. Reply, oh I have scheduled a session for later today. I agree the support is for the kids, yes I do not need it but they deserve that money for college savings and maybe I'm sharing too much but the amount he pays me now is exactly the amount I put every month for each of them into their college funds, or for trade school getting an apartment or house during an apprenticeship whatever they choose to do, but I feel like it's just this leash keeping me, and them, tethered to him and the whims of him and his wife and I'm so beaten down. Commenter 3, he already abandoned his children. Now is the time to wisen up and have him pay for abandoning his children. Be smarter. Every time he's missed a visitation, let the courts know. That money can be used to pay for a college fund. It is his responsibility to foster his relationship with his children not yours. Who cares if he doesn't have a relationship with his children, that is on him. Not you. If he cared about his children, he wouldn't be behaving the way he is. You can't control his actions but you can control yours. Take the extra child support money for a college fund. Reply, the money does go to their college trade school first house fund. I just feel like such a loser and a failure of a mother for giving them him as a dad. Commenter 4, for the love of everything, please stop trying to force a relationship between your kids and a man who so very clearly doesn't give a fuck about them anymore. You have no idea how cruel it is to the kids. I grew up like this. I felt unloved, unwanted and never understood from a father who was more interested in traveling the world, earning money, that he then put in a save because otherwise it was on an account that could be checked during child support hearings, and telling me about his girlfriends. Yes they will ask where daddy is and you'll be honest and tell them you do not know why he's not coming or picking them up. Stop lying to them and acting as if they have a loving father. Reply, please no I'm never forcing anything. My kids do love their dad, if they told me to my face they absolutely didn't want to go there I wouldn't make them. The thing is, they don't know how much I dislike their dad. I don't want them to feel bad about talking about him to me, but it's kind of turned into they think I like their dad and don't want to talk bad about him to me, but I'm working with their therapist to get that out of their heads. They know I am not only on their team, I'm their biggest supporter. Stories number 12. Aita for refusing to lend my daughter out to my SIL for a mommy and me tea. I never really had a good relationship with my SIL Sheila. She has 2 boys with her husband, my hubby's older brother. Both of her sons are special needs. I think Sheila has always resented me for having only girls. She is very feminine, likes to her hair and nails done, go out for girls' nights and she doesn't show much interest in her son's activities. She's always talked about how nice it would be to take her hypothetical daughter shopping or brunch instead of being home alone while Brandon takes the boys out to basketball games or fishing. She adores my younger daughter because she's at that age where she still loves ballerinas, princesses and anything pink and girly. Over Easter, Sheila asked if my younger daughter wanted to come to a mommy and me tea for Mother's Day. I said no, because my hubby and I are already planning something for Mother's Day. And I want to spend it with my girls. Sheila broke down and mumbled something about how she wanted to do something fun instead of being stuck at home with her sons. I felt bad for her. Sheila loves going out to eat but can't take Cooper or Teddy along because they can't cope with being still or in loud places with lots of people around. She and her husband haven't gone out since Teddy was born and it's hard to find a sitter. At the same time, my daughter isn't a doll to placate her girl mom wants. I feel worse now because we had a family dinner last night and Sheila broke down crying when someone asked what she had planned for Mother's Day and that she just wanted to do normal mom things for once. This whole thing makes me feel nauseous. When I talked about it to work colleagues over lunch, they suggested that I let Sheila take my Kate to lunch anyway. It will make her feel better, they said, and I'd be the asshole if I didn't do something to help her. This whole situation really skeeves me out. Aita if I don't let my girls anywhere near my SIL with supervision, let alone. Update. Hi. I just wanted to say, thank you, for all of your feedback. That whole situation left me with this icky feeling I couldn't shake off. I've never liked my SIL, but ever since her youngest was born it feels like the whole family was treading carefully around her. Her behavior was only getting worse and we didn't know how to handle it. It's been a few months, but things are improving. It all started the Sunday after the family dinner where Sheila, my SIL, had her breakdown. My MIL, Carol, had been a school counselor before she retired and wanted to talk to me and Sheila alone. She sat us down in the living room and asked us both what was going on. Why was Sheila so upset at the mention of Mother's Day? It took a while, and there was a lot of tears and screaming between us. I told her that I didn't appreciate her trying to hijack my kid. It got bad enough that our husbands got dragged into the conversation. Finally, Sheila broke. She said that she had been feeling isolated since having her kids. She doesn't relate to what they like and was stressed out from dealing with IEPs and the school. Both boys are autistic, and her youngest has ADHD. She feels like her husband leaves her to do all the hard stuff while he gets to enjoy the weekends with them. Her friends all have girls and she is jealous that they can go on outings with their daughters that she can't do with her sons. She doesn't like the moms in her son's sped classes because, and quote, they remind her of the losers she went to high school with. She felt alone, burned out and hated being a mom. After all that, Carol said she wanted to talk to Sheila and her husband alone. I found out later that Carol chewed her son out big time for leaving the childcare responsibilities to his wife. The boys were his responsibility as much as it was hers. She told Sheila that she needed therapy. We didn't see Sheila or her family for the next few months. The next time we did, we noticed there was a bit of a change. Her husband was more hands-on with the kids and Sheila didn't seem as frazzled or annoyed at them. She was in a better mood, but that was because she had enrolled in an adults ballet class and was making friends, 2 of whom are also boy moms, and one has a son who is also autistic. She also mentioned that she was in therapy, which was helping. I'm just hoping that Sheila continues going to therapy and getting the help she needs. She seems to be improving once she found her new friends and the ballet classes. But we can still see that she favors my younger daughter more than her sister. For their birthdays, Kate got a pretty pricey DIY nail spa kit and Alana got some clothes that didn't fit. Honestly, I'm wary of Sheila's behavior. I'm making sure not to leave the girls alone with her and just keeping my distance. Time will tell if the changes she's making will have any real impact. Relevant comments. I feel so bad for her sons though. They basically have a mom who doesn't care about their hobbies and interests. Like, didn't she and your BIL discuss this before having kids? She sounds like the type of person who would freak out if her daughter wasn't traditionally feminine. I remember them talking about how they wanted to start a family in the lead up to their wedding. My SIL is someone who always wanted kids, or so she said. This was around the time her friends started their families, and she was excited about how their kids would be friends like their moms. I don't think the conversation about what would happen if they had a disabled child came up. I know they tried for a second thinking they would have a daughter. I've never seen anyone lose it more than my SIL when she found out she was having a second son. That has got to be the quickest way to end a baby shower gender reveal party. Stories number 13. My best friend got married to a great girl, and I wish I was her instead. My 27M, best friend, 28, of many years got married to a great girl yesterday. I saw how he cried and light up when she was walking down the aisle. But little did he know I was harboring feelings for him for a very long time. The girl is very lucky to have him. She gets to experience the awesome man I was lucky to call brother even though we don't share the same blood. I just wish things had ended differently, that he was also gay and he had romantic feelings for me as well. But I know that will never happen, and if it was even possible, it is now too late. I can't creep him out with my confession, and it is not like he's gonna leave her for me. I will bring this secret feelings to my grave, and hope that in another universe, I was happy. Stories number 14. Aita for selling my daughter's iPad. In March 2018, my daughter, 16, bought an iPad. She bought it from her own Christmas money. She is a wonderful artist, but I believe she is limiting her potential. She has made money from it, as a little over a month ago she was requested work on Instagram. She has a substantial amount of followers on it, 10K, and has made just under £100. It's nice that she's doing this, but it is making me worry. She does well in school, but all she is doing at the minute is drawing. I understand, she has a hobby and people are paying her money. It is good, but I don't like what she draws either. It is not explicit in any sense, but I don't believe she is pushing herself. She has so much talent. And because she is drawing so much recently, she is neglecting her duties such as doing homework. I've tried getting it across to her that school is important. I came out with good grades and now I am an accountant. I worked hard at school, by doing my homework the first day I got it. I went to many extracurricular and I was a star student. If I could do it 30 years ago, she can do it now. I have a rule of no technology until after dinner, but recently I've found out she's been using her iPad before dinner. I took her iPad away from her and told her she knew the rules. Before dinner is for homework only, but she complained because we have dinner at 7 to 7:30 p.m. and she goes to bed at 9:30, which doesn't give her enough time for her to make art for her customers since she also has to shower. It seems that everything has been revolving around her iPad and I've had enough. On Friday, I had overtime at work. I left the key for her and told her to do her chores. I come home to see that she hadn't done her work, and she came to me with a happy face. She had just been commissioned again and she was receiving £50 for it. I flipped. We had the biggest argument we've ever had. My daughter accused me of not supporting her. Which I do, but her education comes first and I'm sick and tired of her games. She cannot make a living from her art, and this social media thing is poisoning her. She knows the rules in my house, and she must stick to it. She retaliated that now she's making money, I won't need to nag at her like what I do. She finally has a good job and she's making more money from this than what she did on her paper round. She can put this money towards her college fund. I took her iPad and flat out told her I am selling it. She is to delete her Instagram and refund that new customer. She's been crying and wailing, accusing me of not loving her and twisting my words. She's told the story to her auntie and I now have her berating me too. Nobody seems to understand that my daughter is obsessed with this iPad. Her excuse is that she's making money, and I tell her there is no use making money now if you can't make it in the future. Aita Reddit, I have not yet sold the iPad. It is with me, however I had put it up eBay this morning, before I post it on here. Some of you are seriously making me reconsider, but my decision still stands. I want what is best for my daughter, so that in 10 years she can afford to draw all day, and comfortably lounge at home and make money. Comments. Commenter 1. As an accountant/auditor and someone who has side hustled doing digital art commissions, I'm genuinely disgusted at your actions. My parents were the same, not allowing me to do art, so I did it in secret for 3 years and until now they still don't know that I do it. LOL. YTA, if it isn't clear enough, LOL. Good luck in keeping your RS with your daughter. Hope you enjoy it when she cuts contact because LOL you deserve it, laughing face. Edit. On a side note, I hope she files a police report against you for theft, because that is what I would do if it happened to me. Commenter 2. YTA taking away the one thing she enjoys and looks forward to in her day. That gives her validation. Your rosy future won't happen. She will sabotage her school to spite you. She will ruin things because you ruin things for her. Also, not everyone is good at maths. So what? Not everyone has to be an accountant. Let her be plenty of time for her to decide her career, not you. Commenter 3. Aita, and what you're doing is likely going to result in your daughter not talking to you as an adult, and or resenting you for the rest of her life. Commenter 4. YTA, it's her property that she bought with her own money. Confiscating it so you can put your rules as a parent in place is one thing, selling it is stealing. We as parents do not do that to our teenagers if we entertain any idea of them wanting a close relationship with us, not only during the tumultuous time of the teenage years, but into their adult life. A 16-year-old going to bed at 9:30 barely leaves enough time to do the typical homework load, which by this age can be 3 to 4 hours a night without any extra studying. So it's no wonder she's prioritizing short-term money from commissions over plans for long-term success. Homework. If you want her to do her homework and be able to continue to explore art for commission, help her work out a planned schedule to fit both into her time. Help her learn to prioritize which homework and studying gets done first so the studying she does is focused and efficient. Help her work out for her commission a realistic time frame to do them in, a waiting list with cut-off point, ECT. Many new artists throw all they have right into it, and it's not sustainable. Help her rather than be a lazy parent focused on a punishment-only response to failure. Commenter 5. My daughter, 16, bought an iPad. She bought it from her own Christmas money. Honestly, that's all I needed to read. YTA. Do not sell things that do not belong to you. You're an adult, act like it. If you want her to do her homework, then make her do it and give her the iPad back when she proves she did them. If you can't stand hearing about that iPad, tough luck, there are worse things in the world. Deal with it. She cannot make a living from her art, yet here she is, making money. There's no reason why she can't pursue art as a career. You said it yourself, she has talent. It's tough, yes, but not impossible. She doesn't need to be an accountant to have a valid career choice. Give her the damn iPad back, stop being grumpy about her having a hobby and making money off of it, and stick by your rules instead of giving up on them because you're tiring of hearing about it. Update. It's been almost 3 weeks since I last posted, and after many requests I am reluctantly making an update. The day after the incident, I sent my daughter, Eve, to stay with her auntie. She took her school clothes and she stayed from Monday to Friday. During that time I reflected on my actions and I weighed out different situations and my approach. When Eve came home on Friday, we had a long conversation and I tried hearing from her point of view. I had over 100 messages, many threatening, however one stuck out to me. Someone kindly messaged me and gave me a solution to my issue. They suggested that instead of banning Eve from Instagram, I see her process. Watch what she does and figure out how she can organize herself efficiently. When she came home, I brought down her iPad, which was still up for sale for another 2 days, and she informed me of what she did and how, while also hearing her side of the story. I found that many of her commissions do not come from Instagram, but instead another networking communication app, Discord. I was annoyed that she was using something other than Instagram, and hadn't asked me for permission. I followed her process, and for an hour we talked of business. I explained of things she could do to improve, work on her schedule and how she can reach more people. By that time, I allowed her to keep Instagram and I'd let her know on my decision with the iPad. On the Saturday, a week after I posted, I checked the eBay bid. It had reached £310, which I was astounded by because I was expecting around £200. I told my daughter my decision. I was selling the iPad. What worried me about her use of the iPad was that it was a 10-inch screen, and staring at it for several hours was unhealthy. So instead, I thought of a different approach. I asked her that we could either sell the iPad, and I'd be willing to put money towards a new, larger one for Christmas, or I can buy her something else. We talked and she decided on a new iPad. It's been 2 weeks since and we've sold the iPad. I've sorted her a new schedule so that after 6 p.m., she can go on her technology compared to the old rule of technology after dinner. I've also had some feedback regarding her sleeping schedule. Eve goes to bed at 9:30 simply because she's a pain to get up in the morning. She finds great enjoyment of making herself presentable and wakes up at 6:30 every day, and I'm the one who wakes her up. Going to bed at 9:30 means she gets the most rest, and it won't be a hassle in the morning. Now on a Saturday and Sunday, she can access her technology after she's done all her chores, however she has a limit of 4 hours before she has to get off them. I'm currently looking for a new iPad for her, so for now she's not been drawing. I will have something ready before Christmas, but I am looking for assistance on what is suitable. Comments. Commenter 1. My heart was breaking in the original post but was encouraged to see an update. My heart is now completely in shambles all over the floor. That poor girl is stuck with this monster. I sincerely hope the eBay money will be put towards an upgraded iPad. Commenter 2. I have a feeling she will make a mistake and he decides Noi to buy her a new one. The whole time I was reading it I was thinking, oh fuck, she is falling for it. Commenter 3. I'm confused at why she can't use the iPad for drawing. Would you prefer she drew on paper? Also, if she bought the iPad herself, why are you selling it and keeping the money? What is she using to draw while the iPad is waiting to be replaced? I'd understand if the issue was only health-related, but it sounds like she is doing fine using it. You only have an issue because she broke the rule about the times to use it and you not being able to control her actions on it and not liking her artwork. I understand your concern of the internet, but I can see why people are calling you controlling. I'd also add that you aren't being honest about why you don't want her to have the iPad since the reason has changed several times. I'm glad you're willing to talk to your daughter now. I hope you replace her iPad sooner rather than later. Commenter 4. You are officially a terrible person. You make Harry Potter's aunt and uncle look like good caring parents. Commenter 5. YTA still. Reading the story I thought, okay, this is perfectly acceptable for him to have this set of rules for his 12-year-old here. Then went and read the original story and saw that she's 16. This is ridiculous. First, I don't see how it's wrong for her to sell art commissions. It's a healthy hobby and most 16-year-olds should have a job, so this seems like a very positive thing for her. All 16-year-olds have smartphones and social media, thus is extreme helicopter parenting that results in harm because your child will be very behind and unprepared for adulthood when it comes. Just the way that you speak in your posts the entire time, like, I sent my daughter to stay with her auntie, and how you're the one who wakes her each minring and such. It's very clear that you see her as a very young child and are treating her as such. She is 16. Almost an adult. 16-year-olds drive and work and hang with friends. Commenter 6. Presumably you're going to give her the money from the sale of the iPad? Or put it towards a new iPad? Please tell me you are. Reply, I'm buying her a new iPad with the money. I've been looking into Wacom and their products, and with the extra boost of the £300 I can afford to buy her something worth £600 to £700. Commenter 7. YTA Wacom standalone products suck chestnuts and the only good ones you need a PC setup. The unofficial industry standard for digital artists, you know, the ones that don't have real jobs, apparently, is an iPad, Apple Pencil, and Procreate. You made her sell a perfect tool and you plan on getting her something worse. Why? Because the screen is too small. Hate to break it to you, unless you're willing to splurge on the 12.9-inch Pro, $1,000, you're looking at 11 inches, $800-ish, and the 10-inch she already had. You just wanted to swing around your BDE when you have no clue what you're actually doing. As a digital artist myself, if you have the skill and work it right, you can make good money, but I have a feeling that as long as she's living under your roof she won't get a chance to flourish. Stories number 15. Workplace wants to remove bell at desk that aids my disability. Sorry for the long-ass post, I'm really upset and partially venting but do also want advice. I'm a night auditor at a hotel. My job is largely sitting in the back and watching the cameras, printing out papers to store for accounting purposes, and helping guests that arrive in the absolute dead of night. I work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and generally am completely alone in the building except for security, who is one guy that only mostly shows up for his scheduled shifts. This job has been an absolute slam dunk for me. I struggle in most workplaces due to my blend of disabilities that make waking up on time extremely difficult, showing up to work at all can be a challenge at times, and even when I'm in the workplace I often struggle to keep up with workloads. Because I'm coming in the dead of night, I don't have to worry about oversleeping, and since my job is just printing some papers and general customer service I don't have to worry about not being able to handle it. My previous manager encouraged me to bring my switch into work because it can get extremely boring, and she made it clear that as long as I'm not bothering any guests and am here on time and getting my work done, what I do doesn't really matter. She also mentioned that there's a bell in the dining area that the cooks use, and I can take it to leave up front so guests can easily alert me when they need something and I'm in the back. She left the company about a month ago, and our new front desk manager is an external hire. She sent her first message to the team as a whole about a week ago, and about 70% of the message was her lambasting anyone who uses the bell. She saw my signage that says, "Please ring the bell for service," and wrote that anyone using the bell would be written up for doing so. I have pretty bad ADHD, that being a pretty major part of my typical struggles at work. I'm not always looking at the cameras and can't tell 100% of the time when a guest has arrived at the front desk. While I'd like to get medication to help me treat this, the waiting list is a year and a half long just for evaluation, and since I only just got approved for company health insurance it's still a long ways out for me. Maybe it's silly, but that bell is a huge saving grace for my work performance. It's quiet, distinctive, and immediately lets me know I need to get up and help someone. I've not mentioned that it assists me with my disability to my manager, but I wrote telling her that it's useful for me. Additionally, if I don't have a bell out there for people to ring, there's really only 3 ways things will go down when a customer arrives. The customer waits until I check the front desk cameras again, which could be a while because, again, memory issues. The customer walks into an employee-only area to look for me, inevitably scaring the shit out of me and looking extremely unprofessional in the process. The customer yells, "Hello," to try and get someone's attention. None of those scenarios are necessarily ideal. To me, it seems like a much easier solution to simply give customers a way of politely notifying me that they're waiting would be to give them a bell to ring. However, my manager has made it very clear that this simply won't be happening, and I really don't want to get written up. While I could just sit at the front desk, that would make me unable to watch the cameras at all, and additionally I wouldn't feel safe doing so. The front desk is positioned directly in front of a massive window and we're located in a shady part of town. I am certain that I would get people coming in to sexually harass me. It's happened before. I just want to keep the stupid bell. I don't understand why it's such a big deal if it helps me do my work easier. But I don't know how to describe to my manager that a $5 bell I bought off Amazon is an effective disability aid for me without sounding stupid. Update: might have fucked myself over with the new manager. So, I guess I'm kind of looking for help. I think I might have dug myself into a hole here and I really need this job. This is gonna be a super long post, sorry. So, I'm a night auditor. I've been at the job for about 6 months now, and this is the longest I've lasted at any job. Working is really difficult for me due to my blend of mental illnesses, so when I landed this gig after accumulating a shit ton of rent debt and cutting ties with my abusive family, I was celebrating like I'd won the lottery. The fact that I get paid to do fuck all most of the time is a goddamned blessing. The previous manager was awesome, and trained me how to do everything super fast. She actively encouraged me to bring my laptop or switch in to play video games during my shift, because otherwise I'd get so bored I'd start bashing my head into a wall. She also told me I could use the bell from the kitchen to put at the front desk for guests to easily get my attention. This had been an absolute godsend regarding my ADHD, and I made a sign to request guests to ring it for me during the dead of the night. After only 2 shifts she said she was confident I could manage my own work, and I've been working alone ever since, with security around a good half the time. Back in September, she left for a different job. Everyone was pretty heartbroken, but of course we all wished the best for her and she departed with no issues. There was about 2 months where the front desk was reporting directly to the general manager, who was slowly but surely getting less and less responsive to messages and calls. At one point, I had a guest approach me, complaining that their car had been stolen from our parking garage, and despite being told they would get the chance to speak with the GM about the incident, she had never showed up. I sent an email to the GM immediately, furious that she had not responded to our guests and upset that my repeated calls to her over the last 2 weeks hadn't been acknowledged. I told her that she had to come in that day to discuss things with our guests as they would be checking out the next morning, and I expected to be updated on the situation as it had happened during my shift, and I would like to know how I'm expected to respond to this. I got no response and she did not arrive at the hotel that day, so I sent an email to HR saying that I was unable to get in touch with her and needed assistance ASAP. That was fortunately able to kick the GM's ass into gear and the situation was dealt with, though I never got my update. Finally, about a month and a half ago, we got a new front desk manager, who I'll call M. Her introduction to us all felt off-putting. She opened with a standard introduction, and then immediately dove into a rant about the bell. She had seen my sign saying to please ring it, and went off the handle saying it was ludicrous and absurdly unprofessional. She said she threw out the sign, and should she see a sign like that again the poster of it would have disciplinary action taken against them. In addition, she's taken away the keyboards for the computers in the back office, making them functionally unusable for everyone else. This is, of course, a dog's hit way to introduce yourself to your new employees, and a complete power trip to me. A bell is a normal thing to see at a hotel, and putting that aside, it has been an absolute game changer for my disability. I have really bad time blindness and will forget to check the cameras for extended periods of time, and the bell is a good way of immediately getting my attention from whatever I'm doing and getting me to the front desk immediately. I decide that M will surely understand if I tell her it's a disability aid, so I leave a response to her clarifying as much. I obviously don't tell her the details of my disability, just saying that I can be very forgetful and the bell makes it easier for guests to get my attention when I'm in the back office. In addition, I would very much like to use the computers in the back office. M says that it doesn't matter, and I'm not allowed to use the bell. I remind her that as a disabled employee I am entitled to reasonable accommodation, and she's having none of it. She demands I get a doctor's note for the stupid fucking bell, or take it up with GM. She also neatly dodges any of my requests asking where the keyboards are or if we can still use the back office computers. She also says, if I'm experiencing trouble focusing, I should remove my distractions. This advice is very upsetting to hear, not only because I do not want unwarranted advice on how to manage my medical condition, but also because I know that that is not how my fucking illness works. This is maybe where I should have stepped back. I sent an email to GM, explaining that I like to use the bell and it's a preferable alternative to guests entering employee-only areas to get my attention, and I would like to have it cleared as a disability aid. I also mentioned that I do not want to hear him commenting on how I should treat my disability, as she is not qualified to do so. GM seemed to take a very stern tone with her response, demanding to know why I wasn't at the front desk, why I wasn't checking the cameras. The bell has never been allowed and I'm breaking the rules by using it. Worst of all, she demands to know why I did not mention my disability in the course of my interview. This question is fucking shocking. No employee is ever required to disclose their disability to an employer before the job has been offered unless it makes them unable to perform the job duties, and as the manager she should know this. I repeat that I am not required to disclose at any time until I make a request for accommodation, and that my disability means that I sometimes forget to check the cameras and this is not something I am in control of. Additionally, I stress that I have never been told I am required to remain at the front desk for the entirety of my shift. This has never been the case for me nor anyone else I have worked night audit with. I also CC HR to make sure they're hearing all of this as well. HR responds saying if I want accommodations, I'll need a doctor's note, though they do not mention GM's out-of-pocket demands to know why I hadn't disclosed my disability. GM denies that she ever requested I disclose my disability, despite the fact that I have the fucking email sitting in our reply chain just a few days prior. She says that I'm to respect M's authority as she has many years of experience in the industry. This is not something I have ever denied, and that I'm to remain at the front desk for the entirety of my shift. Additionally, she says that M has claimed I've been hooking my laptop up to the work monitors to play video games. This accusation has come out of nowhere. While I have brought my laptop to work to play games, this is something I was extremely explicitly told was allowed by the previous management, and I have never connected my personal laptop to the work computers. I tell her as much, and make sure to stress that I am upset with M because she gave me unsolicited advice on how to manage a medical condition she is not qualified to comment on. Her experience as a hotel manager is irrelevant in that specific matter. I also make sure to stress that it is incredibly fucking weird, considering how bad M has stressed that she's the manager, that she never approached me about this supposed workplace habit. I would expect her to discuss any issues with my performance with me directly, as that would be the normal thing to do. I've not gotten a response to this email, and it's been 3 weeks since I sent it. I'm honestly not sure what to do now. Did I just completely let my anger about this whole situation fuck me over? Do I get papers from my doctor saying that I'm disabled? If I do that, should I bother with the stupid bell that caused all of this bullshit? I still want my fucking bell back, but it's not worth losing my job. Update: taking away my bell got my manager fired. I made a post here a while back about my manager taking away the bell I use at the front desk. Long story short, I like using the bell as it's an effective disability aid and I was originally encouraged to use it. New management came in and said if I was caught using again disciplinary action would be taken. Told her it was a disability aid, she didn't care, took the issue to my GM who began to grill me on why I hadn't disclosed my disability during my interview. Of course, she's not allowed to ask that legally, I'm not obligated to disclose, and she's not allowed to ask me to do so during the course of an interview. I CC'd HR in my response explaining as much, however nothing came and eventually the situation died down, though I still didn't get my bell back. However, apparently my email got a small investigation cropped up around the GM's behavior. Corporate began sniffing around and found that next to nothing in our hotel was compliant with corporate policy, and bonus money that should have been sent to front desk staff as a result of positive reviews mentioning them by name never actually made it to the staff. According to a coworker of mine, the GM had to be escorted out of the building. I spoke with the new acting GM about everything, and he said he was excited to meet me because of the multiple glowing reviews he'd read that mentioned me by name. He's interested in equipping me with the skills to begin rising up the management ranks, and asked me to expand on things that would make my job easier. Among some many changes he's planning on implementing came my personal favorite bit of news: I got my bell back. Stories number 16. Do I need to work with the woman my father had an affair with? I am employed by a non-profit that works with low-income students. I love my job and think my doing it has a positive impact on others. I like my boss and co-workers. We also have an employee who kind of works as an assistant who does data input and organizes our lecture schedules. We are hiring a new person for that position and our manager sent us a short list of people she was considering. She asked us if we had any input/prior interaction with the candidates. The problem is, I do, and I don't know how to broach it with her. I don't think I can work professionally with one of the candidates, let's call her Cersei. We used to be friends and she was my roommate for a brief time, including when I was hired by this organization, so they know I know her. However, a few months ago I walked in on Cersei and my father having sex. It turned out that they had been having a full-blown affair for as long as we'd been roommates. Apparently one of the reasons she'd moved in with me was to be closer to him. I've completely cut Cersei out of my life, my father is obviously also complicit, but my mom is staying married to him, so I don't really trust myself to interact with her without going all septa Anella shame on her, and now there's a chance she's going to be hired into a position I'd have to frequently work with her in. My questions are these: the manager asked us to tell her if we had any input on the hiring decision. What do I say? Do I have the grounds to say anything? Because I actually think Cersei's a decent fit for the position but there's no way in hell I can work with her. If Cersei is hired, how can I work with her? Because I love this job and don't want Cersei to be the reason I quit. Editor's note: for Allison's response and her two options to the letter writer, A and B, please refer to this link here. Editor's note 2, often, the letter writer does not respond to comments in AAM posts, but for this original post here, she has read and responded to some. I am adding her relevant comments for more context. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I feel kind of bad for everyone except Dad in this situation. I hope that Cersei wasn't a minor when it started. I hope that her once willingness to be kind and giving to others didn't mark her as an easy target. I hope that her manipulative plan to move in with OP wasn't actually a plan to get caught and receive assistance. But that's just because I'm more forgiving of people who are in that young, naive stage where they aren't even aware of why they do the things they do, yet. Dad has no excuse. Regardless, the advice is still good. Shamelessly do what you can to the candidacy. You can't work through this while being friendly co-workers, that's just nuts. Reply: Cersei absolutely wasn't a minor when this started. I was a minor when I introduced them, but Cersei was in her 20s when they met and in her mid-20s when the affair started. I don't want to entirely discount that there might have been power dynamics that I don't know about, but that's certainly not been my impression. I hope that as she matures into non-young adulthood she realizes the great pain she took part in causing. I know that was a convoluted statement, but I definitely get emotional. I cared deeply for her. Editor's note: in the next comment, several statements are provided to OOP to use. Commenter 2, as you know, I've known Cersei for some time and she was even my roommate. However, during the time we lived together, she betrayed me pretty severely. I don't want to go into great detail, because it affects more people than just me, and I don't feel it's appropriate to be indiscreet about someone else's sharpest hurts. So I guess I'm asking you to trust in my judgment and believe that I'm not being overly dramatic or overreacting. But Cersei's behavior was tremendously unethical and it was also really hurtful to me, beyond any traditional roommate clashes. It was so damaging that I moved out immediately and stayed on someone else's sofa until I could find a new place. In fact, her betrayal changed my opinion of her a lot. I no longer think she's particularly trustworthy, and I think she's very manipulative. And so I really do not want to work with her. I would hate to have to leave a job I really like and a mission I support so wholeheartedly. And when they ask more and more about what it was specifically, it was in the interpersonal realm, but it was very untrustworthy, and it's not mine to give all the details. Because I was not her primary victim. It's not always appropriate to share all the details about something like this. People who were scammed or stolen from don't want the whole world knowing about their vulnerability or foolishness. People who were sexually harassed don't necessarily want everyone they know to know about it. People whose spouses cheated on them don't want just anybody to have that information. People who were insulted and called names don't want their victimization to be the subject of other people's conversations, or part of their identity in other people's eyes. I may have been a secondary victim and a witness to Cersei's actions, but I was not the primary victim, and I don't want to make things worse for that person by telling their embarrassment and pain to anyone and everyone. But I still think it's appropriate for me to make my own judgments and set my own boundaries based on what I saw Cersei do to other people. And I have a very low opinion of her, and I won't want to work with her. Reply: thank you for collecting these responses. Commenter 3, nah, if Cersei was pursuing the dad to the extent that she moved in with his daughter to get more access, that's super unhealthy and unhinged. Unhealthy and unhinged enough that I would question whether this was really the motivation, except she's applying to work with OP after he ended the affair. That's unbelievably problematic. I don't think cheating is cool, but I wouldn't decide not to hire someone because they had an affair with a married person. That seems largely irrelevant, at least in the work I do. I would absolutely refuse to hire someone who was obsessed enough with a potential partner to move in with a family member to get closer to him. A person like that is not going to show good judgments in her work relationships. And trying to get close to OP again after the affair has ended is a potential landmine. Not only is it bad judgment, it might be an active attempt to pursue the father. That's a superb reason not to hire someone. Reply: well, I wouldn't say that he ended the affair. I would say that I discovered it and forced its end. Because I don't really believe he would have stopped without outside influence. Commenter 4, OP, I saw somewhere in the comments that you had to work at this company related to your schooling. Are you Cersei in a niche field? Unless your field is so specialized that this is the only company that deals in your job descriptions, I am just trying to figure out why Cersei would apply to the company you work for knowing there was a chance you might have to work together. Surely Cersei doesn't believe let bygones be bygones. I can't come up with any reasoning for Cersei to apply. I'm glad your meeting went well. It seems as though your boss values you as an employee and is definitely taking your thoughts into consideration. P.S. I'm not saying this to make light of your situation. You mentioned in the comments that this was a bit of a soap opera. Part of me wants to know if Cersei contacts you once management has made a hiring decision. I feel like Cersei doesn't realize, or care, how she wronged you until it affects her directly. Reply: she's a graduate student, this job is one of the few that corresponds with her program and would give her credit in this area. That's one of the reasons I don't really think she's applying here as a way of targeting me. In response to the postscript, it is a bit of a soap opera story. If she gets back in contact with me, I'll try to remember to let you know. Commenter 5, Op, I can't say any more than has been said above. Allison and AMA comments have given you some good scripts. I do want to say, and I might be misinterpreting things, you seem to be blaming yourself for the situation. For example, it happened because you introduced your roommate to your father. That's a normal experience for someone. Eventually roommates meet people in each other's lives. You seem concerned about how outing the situation will make you and your mother come across. While I suggest to navigate the situation professionally career-wise, this wasn't a situation caused by you. I just want to say you did nothing wrong. I'd go for option 2, saying Cersei harmed you and family members. If you are close to your boss, go into detail if necessary. While one should have a personal life outside of their professional life, sometimes lines get blurred. It seems like Cersei made some bad decisions and is expecting you to just forgive and forget. Based on the comments and speculation, it would almost seem like Cersei conveniently forgot about the affair and is now trying to use you as a networking contact. Not as a threat, but I would definitely mention to your boss that you would be uncomfortable with Cersei as a coworker and will be starting your own job search if she is hired. Can you use boss as a reference? Again, not as a threat, but with all the details your boss might see the whole picture and how it affects you, a great employee. Keep us posted with an update. I feel like if Cersei is hired or not, there will be some confrontation or forced communication with Cersei. Reply: I do blame myself. I know it's not true/rational, but I blame myself for trusting her and bringing her into our family. I am working through the feelings of blame and guilt with my therapist, who is wonderful. When I first told her, she said, "Holy fuck," which was kind of funny. I like your elaboration on option 2. I will definitely keep it in my back pocket for my meeting today. I see my boss at 1. At this point, there's a part of me that does want to confront her, but this isn't the time or place. Commenter 6, curious, but did Cersei know you worked for this organization, or was that just a fluke? Because if she knew, man, that makes it even more messed up. Either way, I think you can speak up about recommending they not hire her. I think it's serious enough to warrant script number 2, which covers a lot without getting into details. Reply, Cersei definitely knows I work for this organization. She was the first person I told when I got my job and actually drove me to one of the training sessions I had when I couldn't drive. Update, your advice, and the advice of your commentators, were spot on. I spoke to my boss a few hours after the thread went up. I went with the second script you suggested. My boss was really glad I came to her. She had already scheduled an interview with Cersei before I came to her, but she let me know that they weren't planning to hire her. And she didn't. I know there are a lot of sad updates about bosses not holding to things they promise, but this isn't one of them. I work well with the GA they ended up hiring, and continue to enjoy my job. Unfortunately, Cersei was hired by another department my job has some overlap with, so I have to see her more than I'd like. To be fair, I'd never like to see her, but every week or so is definitely too much. I'm professional when I have to interact with her, even though I wish I could ignore her. It would definitely be too apparent to coworkers if I were cold to her. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, and I'm working on becoming indifferent to her. Luckily, she should be finishing her program this spring. I was pretty active in the comments of the post, and I really can't express just how grateful I am for the advice and kindness of so many people. I was really struggling with feelings of isolation, like I had to bear this secret by myself, and it was a profound relief to get to talk about it. The professional and life advice/input I received were absolutely incredible. A few weeks after I wrote, I ended up sitting down to have a conversation with Cersei. In the immediate aftermath of discovering the affair, she told me that she'd be open to talking whenever I was ready. I felt ready, and my therapist supported me, so I reached out. It was a frustrating conversation, but one I'm glad I had. She didn't have good answers to the questions I had, but there were also no good answers to the questions I had. I hope that makes sense. There's still a lot of grief and sadness I'm still dealing with, and I'm working on letting my life continue. My parents are still kind of together, and I intend to stick by my mom wherever she goes from here. Thank you so much for helping me stick up for myself, and all your professional advice. Stories number 17. My daughter's friend is being abused. My daughter is 11 years old. She made a friend on the school bus. Let's say her name is Jessica. I've met Jessica once. I only met her because one morning my daughter asked her to come to our place to catch the bus in the morning. We live on the same street. That was 3 months ago. Today, my daughter comes home from school with Jessica. My daughter never asked permission and I work from home, when she came through the door. It threw me off guard. And I told both of them that Komoeni can't come over if no permission was granted. I asked Jessica if her mom knows she's here, to which her reply was no. That raised a red flag for me. Red flag number 2, she asked if she could walk back home because she only lives 20 minutes away. Now I live in the country, it's a safe area. But I would hate if something bad happened to her. The guilt would eat me up. And I can't drive her as I was at work, and 2, I can drive my car right now, no plates on it yet. I told her to sit tight on my daughter's room while I talked to my job for a moment so I could try to figure the situation out. Once I was able to get a few minutes off of work, I approached them and I told Jessica that I wasn't angry with her or anything. She said that she was sorry and that she's only 14 and didn't have the best childhood, and that she had become good friends with my daughter and just wanted to spend some time with her. That right there told me something was not quite right. I figured that something had to still be happening at home. But I didn't want to scare her off. I texted her mom and let her know that her daughter was at my house and her mom had her grandparents come and pick her up. After they left, my daughter told me that Jessica told her that her mom is abusive towards her. That broke my heart. Jessica is such a sweet girl. Was very respectful when I was speaking to her. And it just boiled my blood that this poor girl is going through something so horrific. My daughter says that when Jessica told her this, she told my daughter not to tell anyone because she does not want CPS to get involved. Jessica does not want to be taken away from her family. I completely understand that. I myself was abused. I completely understand the feelings and situation. I was forcibly taken away though because a friend of my mother's contacted CPS and told them about the abuse. I am forever grateful for that, but at the time when it happened I didn't understand it and I was forever angry. I had to go into foster care for 5 years while my mom was in jail. I lucked out with getting into a really good foster care. My foster parents were amazing. And I miss them dearly, but I know not everyone is as lucky as I am. I don't want to make her life worse. However, I know abuse can get worse. And I really want to help this girl. I was thinking of allowing her to come to my house when she wasn't feeling safe or when she just needs to get away. But I'm not so sure that's a good idea now that her mom has my phone number and my address. I don't want to cause my trouble and drama, but I desperately want to try to help this child. What should I do? Stories number 18. My SIL F31 disinvited my wife F28 from her baby shower after a joke, but my brother M35 still wants me M30 to go. I am stuck in the middle. I am 30, recently married the love of my life F28, and I'm super close with my brother M35. We always imagined our families being close too, until one single lunch ruined everything. So, my wife and I went out to eat with my brother and my SIL F31, who is pregnant and about to give birth to my first nephew. Needless to say, we are all very excited. Mid-meal, my brother, probably feeling sentimental, goes, "Man, I hope the baby turns out like me. He was such a cute kid." Now, a bit about my SIL. She's usually nice and I like her, but she's definitely type A and a bit high maintenance. Without missing a beat, she shuts my brother down. "No, I'd much rather he turns out like you." A bit of an awkward comment, and my brother probably thought so as well, so he goes, "No, seriously, we'd be lucky if the kid was like me. He was such a nice and cute kid." And then SIL doubles down, "No, but you're so much more handsome," before turning to look directly at me and adding, "No offense." Now, look. I wasn't deeply offended, my brother is a very good-looking guy, so I get it. But who just says that out loud? My wife, who had been quiet up to this point, clearly found it rude. So she jokingly goes, "Well, as long as the baby doesn't look like SIL, we should be fine." I chuckled. My brother laughed. SIL did not laugh. She immediately got pissed, glared at my wife, and went, "What the hell does that mean? That's extremely rude. We're not close enough for jokes like that." My wife was taken aback and so was I. My brother tried to say something, but she stormed out. My brother followed her, looking about as confused as I felt. Fast forward to today, SIL has officially disinvited my wife from the baby shower celebration. My wife says she doesn't even want to go, which, fair enough. My brother is devastated and really wants me to be there. Now, here's the thing, my brother adores me. He's always been my biggest supporter, and he wants me to be a big part of my nephew's life. He's having his first child, and this moment is really important to him. I love my brother too and can't see him sad like that. He says both my wife and SIL need to apologize eventually, but we shouldn't force it right now and give them some time to cool off. He also thinks SIL owes me an apology for what she said, but again, pregnancy hormones or whatever, so he doesn't want to push it yet. My parents actually side with my wife and think SIL was out of line first. But they also believe I shouldn't miss such a huge moment in my brother's life, and that we should cut SIL some slack because of her pregnancy. Here's my issue, I don't feel right going if my wife isn't welcome. I want to support her, but I also know this moment means the world to my brother. If I go, my wife might feel abandoned. If I don't, my brother will be heartbroken. I feel completely stuck. Consensus, people tell OOP to send a gift and stay home. Update. Thanks, everyone, for the replies. I think I read almost every single one. I really appreciated the different perspectives. First, some clarifications. My wife is not a mean person. She made a joke in the moment, although I admit that it wasn't a great joke given the sensitivity of the situation. But she's genuinely one of the kindest, most caring people I know. That's one of the reasons I love her so much. I don't think my brother did anything wrong by bringing up the topic. We were reminiscing about childhood, and he probably got nostalgic about having his little brother following him everywhere. My brother and I resemble each other quite a bit, though he's definitely the better looking one. Funny how that works. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean I'm insecure. If anything, he's the outlier, he's one of those people who naturally turns heads. Even when we were younger, he'd get random girls hitting on him wherever he went. It was such a running joke in our family that even my parents would tease him about it. The entire conversation lasted less than 5 minutes and escalated very quickly. I agree with the comments that all of us should have handled the situation better. But easier to say that in hindsight. In real time, things just got out of hand very quickly. I am sure that all of us regret what we said in the moment. Now for the actual update. I told my wife that I wouldn't go unless she was also invited. She immediately told me that she didn't want to be the reason I missed it and that I should go if I wanted to. She even said she'd be willing to apologize if my SIL was open to it, but that she wouldn't attend even if re-invited because she'd feel uncomfortable. I told her I appreciated that, but for me, it was both of us or none of us. " Then I called my brother. And this is where I have to give him a lot of credit, because I know he was upset. He had really wanted me there, and I could hear the disappointment in his voice. But instead of pushing, he just said, "I get it, man. Don't worry about it." I know that wasn't easy for him to say. He had to balance keeping things calm with his wife while also wanting his brother by his side. But he didn't guilt-trip me, didn't try to convince me otherwise, he just let me make my choice. He even said, "Don't worry, we'll save you guys some food and I'll drop it off later." I offered to help with setup if he needed it, and told him to say I have COVID to avoid awkward questions. He just laughed and said, "Got it. You caught the world's shortest COVID, just long enough for the baby shower but miraculously recovered the next day." Now, here's where things got a bit more complicated. My mom was not happy with him for not sorting this out earlier. She felt like he should have stepped in and made peace before it got to the point where my wife was uninvited. But my parents didn't say anything directly because they didn't want to get involved in the drama. I think that really weighed on him. He was already trying to navigate a tough situation, and now he had our parents silently judging him too. It put him in an impossible position, trying to be a good husband, a good brother, and a good son all at once. A couple of days passed with no further drama. Then something unexpected happened. My wife got a call from my SIL. At first, my wife panicked, thinking she was about to get yelled at. But instead, they actually had a really good conversation. I overheard bits of it, including my wife saying, "No, you're gorgeous," which made me laugh a little. After the call, my wife told me that SIL actually apologized first. She admitted that she'd been feeling really self-conscious about her looks during pregnancy and that my wife's joke had hit a sore spot. A little later, my brother called me. He told me that he had gently talked to SIL and helped her see that things had gotten out of hand. He also told me that knowing my wife was willing to apologize had made a huge difference. And then, he admitted something. He had wanted to fix things before the baby shower, but he knew his wife was already under a lot of stress. He didn't want to add more pressure on her while she was in the middle of planning. And honestly, I respect that. My SIL is one of those people who needs everything to be perfect: her look, my brother's look, the house, the decorations, etc. So I can understand the pressure she must have put on herself. And my brother knew that pushing her while she was stressed wouldn't have helped, so he waited. And after the event, when things calmed down, he quietly stepped in and fixed things. So where do things stand now? Things seem good on the surface. My wife and SIL made peace, and my brother and I are fine. My wife and I have decided to just be extra sensitive around SIL given what she is going through. All in all, the situation seems to have brought us somewhat closer together. The real takeaway: I have an amazing wife, but her humor could use some work. Also, my brother ain't too bad. Side note, speaking of whom, my brother will probably never see this because he only uses Reddit for sports and news, or so he says, but in the off chance he does, well, guess I'm busted. But since I have your attention, I'll admit something just this once. You are the best bro I could have asked for. That time you helped me for uni, I don't think you know how much it really meant to me. And when I was at a really low point, you stood by me. I don't think I've ever said it, but I've always appreciated that. Of course, I won't ever admit this in person and will forever deny I ever wrote this. TLDR, my SIL uninvited my wife from her baby shower after a joke. My brother wanted me to come anyway, but I refused to go without my wife. It caused some tension, but after a few unexpected conversations, things actually worked out, and I came out of it appreciating my brother even more. Edit, everyone keeps asking why my wife didn't apologize first. I thought I made it clear in the post, but maybe not. My wife was going to apologize but wanted to check if SIL was open to it. She had just been uninvited, so we had no idea whether my SIL was even open to talking to her. I had told my brother that my wife wanted to apologize, and if he had given us the green light, my wife would have absolutely called. Instead, my SIL decided to call once my brother told her that my wife wanted to apologize. That was her being the bigger person. Stories number 19. To fool when I convinced my parents to do an intervention. What I'm about to share happened more than a month ago and at the time there was nothing funny about it. Now it cracks me up and makes me cringe whenever I think about it. I, 18M, still live with my parents and Christianity plays a big role in my family. I'm not sure if I believe what they believe, but one thing was certain: my brother, 25, believed there was only one God. Drugs. At some point in his life, getting high was no longer about having fun, it was about feeding an addiction. When he started stealing from my family to support his drug habit, that's when my dad called the cops and had him arrested. My dad's plan was not to send my brother to prison, he was just buying time to come up with another solution. He called a family meeting and we brainstormed. Besides praying and hoping that a higher power magically makes my brother stop using drugs, rehab was the next best thing. My dad wanted to literally drag my brother to the nearest rehab center and force him to check in. I suggested that we try an intervention just like the ones on TV where the loved ones confronted the drug addict with letters they wrote to show how much they care and hopefully inspire the addict to seek professional help. My family agreed to do the intervention based on my passionate pitch. We wrote our letters and waited until my brother got released from jail the following day. When my brother entered the house, the living room was occupied by family members, church members, a few of my brother's friends, and one of his ex-girlfriends. I never expected my parents to basically invite the whole town, but there they all were. My mom explained to my brother what was happening before volunteering to be the first person to read a letter. My brother was not about that life. He told my mom to stop reading and allow him to go upstairs or he was gonna get upset and say some shit he can't take back. My mom kept reading, which prompted my brother to roast the shit out of all of us. He made fun of my mom for being addicted to Botox and always running on the treadmill with her arms straight down. He asked my dad what God thinks about him paying for porn. He accused me of sucking another guy's dick and literally pointed to the person who owned that dick. He was right. He advised my uncle to lose 200 pounds before trying to save anyone else's life. He said his ex-girlfriend's belly button looked like a butthole, which was the real reason he broke up with her. It went on and on until an argument broke out between my brother and everyone else. If my brother was not the tallest person in the room, my guess is someone would have punched him in the face long ago. Luckily it didn't go that far. My brother eventually went upstairs and didn't come down until there was no one left but my parents and I. It was awkward between all of us. My dad and I were unable to look at each other for the rest of that week, and what made it even worse was the fact that neither us denied what my brother said about us. It was never mentioned again. Since then, my brother agreed to go for rehab. He's been clean for 22 days and it seems like he's doing better. My mom stopped using the treadmill and is now running in the park early in the mornings when none of us are awake to see if she's actually moving her arms or not. It's still unclear if my dad watches porn, let alone pays for it. I'm dating a girl and she knows I've sucked a dick. I can't provide updates for the rest of the people my brother insulted. I think they're all done with the drama in my family because I don't see much of them anymore, lol. TLDR, I convinced my parents to have an intervention for my drug-addicted brother. The intervention went sideways when my brother got angry and roasted everyone. Notable comments. Commenter 1. He definitely had a shit list and was just waiting for someone to say something. That's not the kind of stuff you just think of on the fly. Commenter 2. I'm just imagining how much the arm down running bothered your brother that he got addicted to drugs until the family staged an intervention just so he could call her out on it. Commenter 3. I get how unfunny this must have been in reality, but the thought of someone walking into an intervention and immediately being like, oh, so we all want to talk about my problems. I got the goods on all your mfers gave me a good. So from what I'm getting, your brother has a future as an incredibly successful comedian. He has all the stuff for it. Drug addict past. High observation skills and awareness. A quick wit. The ability to flip energy and control a room. Update. A couple of years ago, I shared a post about my family ambushing my brother with an intervention and hoping that he would hear us all out and go to rehab to treat his drug problem. However, my brother used the intervention to roast everyone he made eye contact with, including me. I got roasted for sucking another guy's dick in front of my family, who had no idea I was attracted to guys. Since then, my brother has been clean and living with my parents. I've moved out, but I visited my parents a few days ago to introduce them to my GF. For the record, my parents pretended that the intervention never happened, meaning that everything my brother said about us that day never took place. I automatically followed their lead and continued to be straight for the most part while low-key being bi on the side because not being open about uncomfortable things was something I sadly inherited from my mom and dad. I informed my brother that my GF had no idea that I liked girls and guys, but I was planning to tell her when I was ready, so I would appreciate it if he didn't go there when the two of us naturally do our big brother little brother banter thing. My brother said I had nothing to worry about. Those were his words to me when we were messaging each other. As soon as my GF and I showed up at the house to meet my family, my brother was in the middle of an intense argument with my parents in the living room. I didn't know what they were arguing about, but I repeatedly said hello until my family eventually noticed me standing behind them with my GF. My mom and dad instantly went from being upset at my brother to being warm and welcoming towards me and my GF. When my parents literally turned their backs towards my brother to greet me, he did a slow clap and congratulated my parents for never failing to drop everything every time their favorite son comes home to suck the dick of his big brother's best friend. My brother walked out when he said that and left me standing there next to my GF, who was now looking at me like what the fuck. I had no choice but to have a talk with my GF afterwards and confess that I did indeed suck a few dicks in the past. I did my best to explain to her that I've only had serious relationships with girls, whereas with guys it was never anything more than fun. My GF wanted me to show her my brother's best friend so that she could see what type of guy I liked. I ended up showing her a random photo of him on my brother's Instagram. She asked a lot of uncomfortable questions after looking at the photo, like who was the top and who was the bottom, who was more attractive between him and her, etc. Needless to say, I had to proceed with caution every time I opened my mouth. Thanks big bro. TLDR, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time when I decided to introduce my GF to my family because my parents were busy arguing with brother, who used his anger to reveal that I sucked his best friend's dick, which is now the second time my brother has outed me in front of an audience. My GF had no idea I was bi until this happened, leaving me with a lot of explaining to do. Notable comments. I wonder if the brother has ever considered the possibility that the other son is the favorite because he is an arsehole. Stories number 20. My cousin-in-law insulted me, slut-shamed me, at my cousin's house 6 months ago. I have been invited to their house again. Am I wrong or being petty to decline the invitation? I will call myself Tiffany to protect my identity, not my real name. In September I was invited, along with mutual friends, to my cousin's house. She lives there with her husband and she had just given birth. Halfway through the visit, there was a discussion about how we, as the eldest children in our family, have started having children now. My friend said, well, Tiffany hasn't had any children yet, to which her husband retorted, not that we know of. I was so uncomfortable that I was lost for words. I've only had one relationship several years ago and it wasn't sexual, so this was really disturbing. My friend then asked uncomfortably, do you have any children we don't know of, Tiffany? And I said, most certainly not. We exchanged gifts shortly after this exchange and left. Everyone pretended that it was a joke when I asked two friends about it. They initially pretended they didn't remember it happening. One of them later admitted it was an asshole move and that she told her husband, who also agreed it was in bad taste. My mother, sister and aunt have advised me never to go back there again. I told the friend who said her husband agreed that it was in bad taste that I would be declining the invitation, and she said, just brush it under the carpet, you can't hold grudges in life. Only this isn't holding grudges. It's having dignity. I won't let them take that away from me. The man insinuated that I have hidden children or that I've had abortions in an attempt to reduce and diminish my self-worth and dignity. He made me extremely uncomfortable. How on earth can that be passed off as a joke? I felt like they all gaslit me into accepting it as a joke. Only, I am not close to this cousin-in-law, so it's not a friendly joke. Also, he's extremely religious, so it doesn't befit him or his personality to be making such a crude joke. I have never had abortions, but even if I had, that would be my personal business, and what is it to him? As a married man and father of one, it's extremely inappropriate of him to state. Edit, many people are approaching this from a secular lens. I am a very secular person, which automatically makes Orthodox Muslims view me in a negative lens. They are so religious that they all observe very strict Islamic dress code. They are so religious that my absent father, who never contacted me to tell me to make sure I cover my hair if I am to attend the naming ceremony of my cousin's daughter, which I didn't attend, because I don't conform. They already see me as a rebel. My father has never told me to cover my hair. It's only because my cousin's husband is from a very Orthodox family. This kind of joke is not normal in context of the culture he belongs to. You don't joke like that, especially not with members of the opposite sex. Especially not with your wife's cousins. Stories number 21. Today my partner of 6 years remarked to me that I shouldn't go into a hot tub if I was on my period. He says he has seen this posted on swimming pool walls. My mind was kind of blown and I said something along the line of, yeah, that's not really something since the tampon and cup have been invented. He accused me of being snide and trying to make him feel this, but in reality I was really surprised by the ignorance of his remark. I told him nicely that perhaps before the invention of the tampon this was so, but that there was even a famous commercial by Tampax that women would joke about because it said we could swim and ride horses now. He got extremely livid and accused me of making it up. Started calling me a know-it-all, and my response was yes, I am a know-it-all about my vagina. His next line of defense was complaining that I seem to have a lot of issues around women's rights. I've never really seen the fragile male ego embarrassed like that before, and to be honest it is affecting me. We have been in a relationship for years and I've never seen this side of him before. It's making me question our relationship. Stories number 22. I am dating a black man. Thought about venting a bit. I am an Arabic lady, and the guy I am currently dating is from West Africa. We are getting engaged very soon, and I am happy about that. However, my family is totally against this, but they had to approve. But why they are against? They are telling me the most racist stupid things ever, which are why you don't get engaged to a white guy. Same thing with my colleagues when he came to my place of work. Next day they were telling me we are shocked about the guy you are dating, you don't match at all, and I can see their facial expressions, which made him a bit uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything to me. Same thing with my friends. They are telling me we are shocked about what you did, you didn't find anyone on earth to date but only this African guy. I am not this kind of person who pays attention to what others say, but recently I feel bad. I don't want to invite anyone to our engagement. The worst thing is that one of my coworkers is Indian. She was saying that in front of everyone that I would never date a black man in my life. I was very angry and I had a fight with her. We are on 21st century, but why people are still discriminating. Stories number 23. My 27F husband, 28M, secretly recorded us and sent it to my ex. I just found out my husband 28M of 2 years secretly recorded us during sex and I'm freaking out. He sent it to my ex that he's always been openly jealous of. I knew he could go a little over the top sometimes, but this honestly is making me insane. I'm not sure what to do, I'm not sure what to say. I found out from logging into his Instagram and seeing their DMs. My ex was angry in the text but blocked my husband right after confronting him. This exchange was around May of last year. I'm really scared and I'm panicking. LMAO, what do I say to my husband? I need to confront him, but I'm just so scared. I can't believe he'd record us without me even realizing. What if he has more on his gallery? I'm so worried, I'm so scared, I don't know what to do. Edit, I've cleared my head a little and I'll be looking for any more evidence I can. My sister has a lawyer that I am in contact with, so I trust things will go accordingly. Thank you for the advice, everyone. Wish me luck. Stories number 24. Aita for kicking my sister out after she laughed at me and my disabled wife. Me and my wife are 23. We were dating since we were 15 and 4 years ago we got married and our families were against us getting married so early on cause we are too young to commit, but we got married and they attended, but we could sense their discomfort. Now her family and mine and we both get along with each other and I felt like we all are getting along cause we both are happy and so were our families. 7 months ago my wife had an accident, she broke both of her legs and she had scars on her face which got her depressed and I tried my best to help her, to comfort her, and doctors are trying their best and I am providing as much physical and emotional support as I can. But the truth is she's paralyzed possibly for life, she's not going to go back to the way she was, she knows, and so do I, but I am trying my best to help my wife. But 3 days ago when my sister came to visit us, she got drunk and started making fun of our situation, she started blabbering and said it's karma for hurting everyone in our family. Thankfully my wife wasn't around, she was sleeping. I asked her to get in the car and I dropped her to her place. Next day she says that she's sorry and didn't mean to hurt me, but I told her that what she said hurt me. I would have forgave her if she hit me, but you are making fun of what we are going through and I cannot accept that and I am never going to talk to her ever again. But my parents are saying that my sister was drunk and I should forgive her and forget it because she was drunk, but I feel like she was extremely disrespectful to us and our struggle and making fun of us. Stories number 25. Aita for telling my family it's not my fault, I'm not a twin. My parents struggled to have kids and went on fertility treatments to have my siblings, and the result was 2 sets of non-identical boy-girl twins who look identical pretty much. The older twins are Max and Amy and the younger twins are Jace and Lacey. Our family has always been so obsessed with the fact there were 2 sets of twins born to the same parents in our family and that they could pass for identical even though they're the opposite sex. Birthdays, Christmas, school plays, sports games, report cards, graduations and everything was a huge deal and celebrated as this great thing. My siblings had so many parties thrown for them and so many reasons given to get them gifts that it was insane. I was born 6 years after Jace and Lacey and my family can't hide their disappointment in a Singleton. My birthdays were never a big deal and I didn't get the same attention for Christmas, report cards, sports games or school plays. For my siblings the whole family would try to show up and support and I was lucky to have one parent at any of my stuff. My report cards were never celebrated either. I'm not too close to my siblings. They don't notice me much and enjoy the attention a lot so it's easy for me to slide through the cracks with them. But even our parents don't put the same amount of attention and effort into me. My graduation was a topic of conversation a weekend ago. My siblings can't make it because of work or college stuff and the rest of the family was like, well I guess we don't need to plan around my graduation. I told them I'd still like everyone there and they said I didn't need anyone there. I asked why my siblings had and they said it was such a big deal for twins and when they're one of 2 sets born to the same parents and could pass for identical. They said that's something to celebrate. I told my family it's not my fault, I wasn't a twin and I didn't get why I was being overlooked. My grandpa said at 17 I don't need to be jealous of attention other kids get and as a boy I shouldn't get caught up in that kind of stuff. I said even teenage guys want to feel like they matter. My family said I was being unreasonable. One of my aunts said I was gaslighting the family while my grandma, parents, and a couple of other aunts and uncles said I was emotionally trying to manipulate them. They wanted me to apologize to everyone for telling them it's not my fault I'm not a twin because nobody ever said it was. Stories number 26, AIO. My wife just had a positive pregnancy test. I've had a vasectomy for 15 years. So, I'm actually a bit surprised by how much this has been seen and commented on. As well as an insane amount of DMs. Even if I didn't reply, I did read them all. Some background. When our twins were little and I was working 2 jobs, my wife had an EA. So there is a history that led to me freaking out initially. It was barely an EA from her side, but the AP was pushing boundaries when I caught what was happening, and in her defense she agreed it was inappropriate as soon as I confronted her and went NC immediately. Since then we've actually gotten to a great place and have a great marriage. Got all the questions why she took a pregnancy test. She was 2 weeks late, and even in perimenopause she's like a clock usually, and as has been mentioned, the snip can fail. For the "she's for the streets" comments and DMs, after my initial reaction, I'm not concerned that she was fooling around. Our youngest daughter wanted us to get location sharing, so we all share locations with each other. We have Ring cameras at all entry and exit points at our home, and honestly, we pretty much are together when not at work. On to the update. She is not pregnant. They are unsure what caused the false positive, which they got at the doctor's as well, but an ultrasound ruled it out. I have an appointment to make sure I don't have swimmers, cause now I'm nervous about that. They want to do some more tests to make sure the HCG in her system is just a symptom of perimenopause and not anything worse. I'm glad that my freak out was kept to myself, and thanks to all of you that have me some info on what could be causing the issues. Update. So my wife of over 25 years just showed me a positive pregnancy test. I've had a vasectomy since just after our 18-year-old twins were born. She's freaking out about the pregnancy and the fact that I've had a vasectomy. I've been calm and supportive. I'm saying I'm fine. I really can't even think of a single time she has a chance to screw around. I'm going to make an appointment with a urologist. I am still freaking the fuck out in my head. This happened an hour ago and it's just weird. I'm 56 and she's 50, which is way too old to have a kid. ETA, y'all are awesome. Someone mentioned perimenopause can cause false positives, and a Google search shows this to be accurate. Rare, but it happens. I've already mentioned it to her and her doctor has her on the schedule tomorrow. The complete ending of freaking out on her part pretty much put my anxiety to rest. I'll update in case anyone wants to know. Stories number 27. Aita for being angry at my girlfriend because she didn't call a taxi. I'm sick. I'm better now, but last week I couldn't handle it. So me, 27F, and her, 26, got in a taxi and went to the hospital. Unfortunately, the first hospital was too crowded. There were people even outside. No one knew what was going on. We left in the same taxi. We went to the second one. The waiting time was 4 hours, the doctor still didn't come, they said us. We left, without waiting. We went to the third hospital. I've been there a few times and I have to say it has good doctors, but getting out is awful. I waited for a taxi for half an hour last time. Buses run once an hour. Doctor saw me after 10 minutes, then the whole thing took a 2/3 hours. They wanted to check my blood pressure, etc. Finally they gave me N4, and when it finished the doctor told me he gonna be right back and prescribed me some meds. While I was waiting for him, I went out into the hallway and told my girlfriend to call a taxi already. She complained a bit, but I told her not to worry and I pay for everything. So even if taxi arrives too soon this time, it won't be a problem. She left the hospital. I left after another 15 minutes, then I saw her sitting on a bench near parking, typing something on her phone. She had shopping bags next to her. I asked her what she doing. She said she was calling a taxi. I asked her what she had been doing earlier. She said she had gone to a nearby store and bought us some food. I asked her if she could have called a taxi at that time. She said I still had to go to the pharmacy and the taxi would definitely be there by then. Great. The pharmacy was right by the hospital. It took me 5 minutes to get there and back. There was no taxi. There wasn't one after another 10 minutes, or after 20. We waited 40 minutes. By this time I was feeling tired and angry. I was dizzy and just wanted to go to the bathroom and then to bed. I didn't have the strength to argue, so the entire ride was in silence. But when we got back my girlfriend said, "Wow, it's already that late. I can't believe it took us this long." I told her maybe it would go faster if you listened to what I was telling you, and I go to sleep. In the morning she first didn't want to talk to me, and then, when my family arrived, she started complaining that I yelled at her, and that, how was she supposed to know that it will take that long this time too? Later, when we were alone, she said that the whole situation was stressful and she just wanted to help and at least buy us some food. I replied, I understand that you're stressed, but I literally asked you for something. You literally know that there's a long wait for any transport there, but you still chose to wait until I left the doctor's. And I was tired too, and I really wanted to go home. She asked if I was still angry and I replied, just a little, I'm mostly still tired. I thought we were over it after that, but then I got a text from a mutual friend saying it was overreacted. This week my girlfriend is still cold and keeps bringing it up. We left home at 6 p.m. We returned at 11 p.m. Edit, okay, yeah, my girlfriend is coming back in 10 minutes. I'm waiting for her with dinner and then we'll talk. It was nice to argue, but I still have to change clothes and take shower, so I think I'll end it here. Edit 2, we both had a conversation while eating her favorite dishes made by me. As an apology. Of course I also told her that I was sorry. I told her that I felt overwhelmed and frustrated that day. Of course I am grateful to her for being there for me and for thinking about shopping, but that day I only saw negative things and wanted to go to home. She also apologized for a comment she made at home and with my parents. She admitted that she did so hoping for some kind of reaction because she was pissed off that I was right and the taxi arrived late. Then we both complained that it was cold and we were pissed and tired. I'm taking her on a date next week. I guess it will be fine. And I still need to sign up for a gastroscopy. Stories number 28. Aita for choosing sides in a breakup at my game night. I don't think I've done this, but the offended party thinks that's the case. All names changed. I hosted a game night with my husband, inviting 4 of our friends. It was semi-regular, every other week or once a month at the same time due to some of the participants' work schedules being tough to work around except for this one night every other week. Larry is my husband's best friend from childhood and earned the first invite. He brought along his girlfriend, Jessie, who has since become a good friend of mine, and also invited his coworker, Rob. Our friend Ella also attended. We had lots of fun. It kept up for a good year and a half of camaraderie. It's become one of the few things I enjoy during my week. I'm a newish mother of a 1-year-old and struggle making new friends. I genuinely credit this game night with friends with part of my healing with my mental illness. Then, Larry and Jessie broke up. It was nasty, with lots of hurt emotions, shouting, and the like. It had lasted almost 3 years by the time it was done. For the record, they're better off broken up. Things had gotten so toxic for both of them. Larry took things especially hard. He was clearly worried he was going to end up socially isolated, and myself, my husband, and Rob did our best to assure him he was our friend no matter what. But then game night came around. I wanted to be fair, so I invited Rob and Ella and sent a separate message to Larry and Jessie, explaining they were both invited but if they wanted to come they had to commit to being civil with the other party. If they weren't comfortable doing that, we would hang out some other time. Jessie said, yeah, I'm okay with seeing him, I can be polite. Larry said, I don't want to see her, and I replied, okay, I'll make sure we grab lunch sometime this week to make up for it. Larry believed he should have been given some kind of preference because he's been my husband and my friend longer than Jessie. He complained about feeling abandoned. And even when Rob decided he would go over to hang out with Larry one-on-one after game night, Larry bitterly remarked that it was a pity visit. Jessie is disabled on multiple fronts and has very limited opportunities for socialization, plus I had genuinely become close friends with her, she's my daughter's godmother. I couldn't just invited Larry and not her, it wasn't fair. But part of me wonders if I wasn't fair to Larry by basically hanging out with his ex while he sat at home alone, even if he was the one who decided he didn't want to see Jessie. It's been about 4 months since this went down, and not knowing if I did the right thing has eaten me up inside. I've stopped hosting game nights entirely because I feel so conflicted. Help me out so I can finally move past this and maybe get back to having fun with my friends. Edit, thanks for all the feedback guys. My takeaway, I'm going to check in with Larry to see how he's feeling now that it's been a few months. If he's ready, we'll give things another try. If not, I'm gonna restart game night while alternating invites between Larry and Jessie. I'm also going to encourage Larry to start his own game night and tell him I'd love to come for it. Also, to clarify on the godmother bit, I had to choose somebody who practiced the same religion, and my husband and I are converts, so we don't have any family that qualified. Our congregation is quite small, only around 75 regular attendees, and Jessie and Larry are the ones that are our friends and our age. But just because I chose her because she was on a very short list of options doesn't mean I don't consider Jessie a very close friend. We really have bonded over the past few years separate from our significant others. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I think it would be helpful to have the perspective of OP's husband. Larry seems to view Jessie as an invitation because she is his girlfriend, rather than as a friend to the group. Thus, when she is no longer his plus one, she is off the island. Or at any rate, because the breakup is hard on him, and he was friends first, he has friendship dibs on the group. It seems like they dated for several years. While you would hope people could focus on the positive, and tolerate each other for an evening, for some couples that is not going to be possible. If he isn't willing to be around his ex then, intended or not, he is the one voted off of Games Night Island. Reply. Throughout their relationship, Larry definitely did bring Jessie to everything, our church, our parties, and my game night. He told me multiple times he wanted Jessie and I to be friends since he knew both of us struggled with loneliness. So his behavior and his own insistence seemed to be that he wanted her to be part of the friend group. The instant she dumped him, the story changed to the plus one scenario you describe. Husband backed me up when I decided to invite both of them. I went to him for his take before doing anything. Commenter 2. Info. What toxic events happened and was it balanced? I can see Larry being more hurt if she cheated on him and was just a bit rude to her. Reply. No cheating. It really boils down to them not being effective at communicating together. They would both get very angry, defensive and accusatory, and neither were ever willing to move on from previous slights. As I understand, Jessie ended things because she was tired of Larry lying over silly things and not following through on goals they had, i.e. they wanted to get married, but he wanted to save up for a car first and never proposed or even kept his driver's license up to date. Larry was also subject to a lot of belittling from Jessie. She wasn't particularly supportive and seemed to jump to anger quickly in arguments. I really don't think either party is solely to blame here. I know that sounds trite, but they just really weren't good together and have made strides with anger management and communicating their needs ever since the breakup. OOP on what the game was. For perspective, yeah, it was D&D. We would frequently play other tabletop board games if somebody couldn't make it. There is the option of disbanding the campaign and switching to one-shots or sticking to just board games. Continuing our game of D&D wouldn't really work with alternating invites. Still, it might be worth it to preserve friendships to change course and stick to board games without a through line between sessions. Update. My daughter's birthday has happened since this. This was way different from a game night, because both Larry and Jessie are close to her and have babysat her, before and after their breakup. I talked to my husband, who said we should invite Larry first to see how he felt, especially after how hurt he was by the handling of the game night. Larry said he was fine seeing Jessie at my daughter's birthday. Remember, Jessie is also my daughter's godmother. The birthday went without a hitch, until we were eating cake. Jessie brought up a tricky topic in conversation that has caused some tension in the past. Larry, who had been in the restroom, came back to the room, listened for a minute, and then chimed in with an aggressive comment. Jessie responded in kind with similar aggression, and I cursed everything in the blue sky, because now not only was my game night ruined by my friend's breakup, but now they were about to make my daughter's second birthday awkward because they were fighting over something stupid. My husband was actually the one to tell them both to cut it off, and if they were going to fight they could leave. Larry shot off a quick, fine, and walked out the door, just like that. Husband chased after him. The two of them were gone for well over an hour and a half while they talked over a lot of old resentments. By the time my husband came home, our daughter was in bed and everyone except Jessie had left. She stuck around so I wouldn't be alone. Jessie was very apologetic, admitting that she shouldn't have risen to Larry's bait. But the whole experience left a sour taste in my mouth. I still haven't gotten around to actually hosting another game night. My own birthday was yesterday and I wanted to buy a new board game with my gift money, but ended up talking myself out of it with a bidder. Who am I gonna play with if I buy it? So, I guess the takeaway is, thanks for helping me get a better view of all the fun things going on with my friends. I'm trying to lean on my other friendships from my hometown, 3 hours away, as well as work on my own marriage and making sure we have healthy communication so we don't end up in the kind of bitter cycle that Jessie and Larry are stuck in. I appreciate all the feedback I got, including the brutal honest stuff. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Larry is truly TA. Storming out of a 2-year-old's birthday. Who does that? All that aside, I wouldn't get too down about it. People are fallible, and have negative, self-destructive traits sometimes, which has nothing to do with you. What about your other friends? What about alternating game nights between Jessie and Larry? You got this OP, you can totally have fun and keep the peace. Reply. He admitted as much, to his credit. And I've seen a few adjustments to his behavior since that incident. It's been about 2 weeks, that seems to show he is genuinely sorry. In terms of other friends, the crew I've mentioned in my original post is about it in terms of friends I have locally. It's kind of a sore point for me that I have more friends, but they live 3 hours away due to all having moved there for work after college and it also being my hometown. I'm sort of out of my element where I live now, even after being here 2 years. I need to man up and try to host a game night again, for my own sanity, but I'm worried that Jesse and Larry just can't be trusted to be civil and I still don't know how to manage an alternating invitation that won't hurt feelings. Stories number 29. Aita for refusing to pay in full for a meal someone else took home. I, 20F, went out for dinner with a friend, 20F, and her boyfriend, 20M. By accident I ordered a dish that I couldn't eat, this was my fault. When it came time to grab the bill, my friend and her boyfriend asked if they could take my meal, which was barely touched. I said sure, since I wasn't going to eat it and it would be a waste otherwise. A couple days later her boyfriend reached out asking me to pay for my portion, which included the food they brought home. This caught me by surprise since again, they were the ones who ended up eating it all and it felt like being asked to pay for part of their meal. If they hadn't done that I would have paid in full since it was my mistake for ordering the dish. I explained this to him and asked if they could recalculate the total. Her BF said he understood and gave me the new split, which ended up being $20 less. I paid the remaining, $10, but it seems like afterwards they weren't very happy and have since refused to hang out. This is the first time something like this has happened, and there have been times where I have covered the meal without really caring if I got the money back just because I wanted to hang out. Since we were already growing distant in our relationship, I kind of just let it be. When I brought it up in passing today, a different friend said she disagreed with my actions and claimed that they were helping me by not wasting my food. To be honest, I still don't really see how this was helping me, as either way I wasn't eating it. I also think that by taking the food it was a choice they made that they should be accountable for. Again, if they didn't take the food I would have paid for it. This feels like if someone ate your food and still asked you to pay for it. It's not something I would do to anyone else, and I don't think it was wrong of me to voice my objection considering how the BF even said he understood. That being said, I feel bad at how the friendship fell apart over some dollars. Aita. Should I have just paid the full meal? Stories number 30. Fucking cameras everywhere. Going to the gym. Better watch out, you wouldn't want to accidentally ruin some micro-influencer's shitty workout video. Yoga class. Hey, we're filming for our Instagram page, enjoying a peaceful walk in the park. Excuse me. Can you answer a few questions for our TikTok survey? Taking the bus. Hope you don't mind being in the background of 100 selfies. Working quietly. We're making another video about our university, do something fun. Finally found a quiet moment. Are you sure no one's filming you from behind, waiting to mock your outfit online? It's endless. Photos, videos, everywhere. You can't take a single step without worrying about ending up in some random Instagram post or another mindless TikTok. I just want my privacy back. This is frustrating. Stories number 31. He pressured me into scheduling appointment then broke up with me. I still went. My boyfriend was uncomfortable having sex until my next plan-in was replaced. It's at 4 years 7 months and expires at 5. I said it's fine for a few months, but I'll schedule an early appointment. My previous time having the removal done, it had shifted to in the muscle. They dug around in my arm for about 45 minutes before deciding it should be a general surgery operation. I go under general and have it removed. The incision is huge, my arm hurt incredibly bad, and I'm terrified of going under anesthesia and being on painkillers. It was overall a very traumatic experience, but I got another one because they said what happened that time was very rare, so I got it again. I wanted him to feel comfortable having sex with me because I really valued our intimacy and we were having sex daily. He said I should because the abortion laws have gone down to under 6 weeks and birth control might be harder to access, so I should get the bar again. Last week I felt like I was in the most perfect relationship. It was our 6 months, not a long time I know, but I'd never been so happy and confident to be with someone before and wanted to celebrate, and he shows up. Breaks up with me. I'm in complete shock and it was very brutal. I don't know why, but I keep the appointment. I almost had to prove I could do it by myself. My psych prescribed Xanax because she knew I was nervous. I no longer had anyone to drive me, so I walked because I don't want to drive on Xanax. I get there alone, some other patient is trying to make polite small talk, but I just wasn't having it today. I get back there and start crying as they dig in my arm for an hour to try and find it. They said it went really deep. I'm alone, scared of surgery, and I couldn't help but place some blame on him. They were able to get it and replace it in-house thankfully. I had to stop to get cat food, but I guess they cut a lot because numbing wore off quick. I was trying to use one arm to get the food and walk home and just had a longing feeling of wishing it instead had been him driving me, being by my side during the procedure, and telling me not to worry about getting cat food because he will bring me home to rest while he gets it. That's how it was supposed to go.